This is a regular meeting for October 15th, 2025, convening at 6:37 PM. Madam City Clerk, please do the roll call.
Councilmember Nakanishi, Councilmember Hothy.
Here.
Councilmember Craig Hensley.
Here.
Mayor Potem Yepez, Mayor Bregman.
Here. And if you would, go over item C2. Madam City Clerk, Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will announce the item. Item C2 is C2A, Conference on Labor Negotiations regarding International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Lodi City Mid-Management Association, AFSCME General Services and Maintenance and Operators, Police Mid-Managers, Lodi Police Officers Association, Lodi Police Dispatchers Association, Lodi Professional Firefighters, Lodi Fire Mid-Management, Confidential General Services, Confidential Mid-Managers, Executive Managers, and Appointed Employees pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6.
And is there any public comment during this time? If so, please come to the podium now. Seeing none, no comment cards?
No.
All right, and council's convening to close session at 6:39 PM. Council's returning from closed session at 7:07 PM. Madam City Attorney, can you please report on closed session?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council convened in closed session regarding item C2A, conference with labor negotiations regarding all the city bargaining units, confidential mid-managers, executive managers, appointed employees pursuant to Government Code 54957.6, and there is no reportable action at this time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And now we're going to have our invocation from Matt Liu from the Lodi Police Department Chaplain Program. And I pronounced it correctly? Liu. All right.
Heavenly Father, this evening we pray for our nation, state, city, and our civic leaders. We lift them before you, asking for your covering hands for wisdom, strength during this meeting. Grant them wisdom in the decisions they make in governing us. Surround them with your protection and remind them that their work is noble and deeply valued. May they always know that they are never alone as they make decisions governing us. In your holy name, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. And if all would rise for our flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And this is the regular meeting for October 15th, 2025, convening at 7:09 PM. Madam City Clerk, can you please do the roll call?
Councilmember Nakanishi, Councilmember Hothy,
Here.
Councilmember Craig Hensley,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Yepez.
Here.
Mayor Bregman.
Here. All right. And we're going to go with item B1, presentation of proclamation proclaiming the week of October 19th through 25 as Friends of the Library Week in Lodi. If Catherine Siddle is here, please approach the podium, and she is this year's president. Well, I thought I was on a lot of committees myself, but I think you take the gold in that, Catherine. Friends of the Library Week. Since 2005, the American Library Association has promoted National Friends of the Library Week during the third week of October to celebrate and promote friends groups who support libraries across the country. The Friends of the Lodi Public Library play a pivotal role in supporting and enhancing library services for the entire community by generously contributing their time, energy, and resources to advocate for library programs, sponsor special events, fund literacy initiatives, and provide financial assistance for materials and technology beyond the library's budget. Through book sales, fundraising, and community partnerships, the Friends help ensure that Lodi Public Library remains a vibrant and welcoming space where everyone can access information, explore creativity, and connect with one another. The Friends understand the critical importance of well-funded libraries and advocate to ensure that our library gets the resources it needs to provide innovative programming for all ages, foster lifelong learning, and support equitable access to information and resources. The City of Lodi recognizes the invaluable contributions of the Friends of the Lodi Public Library and their dedication to enriching the lives of residents through their steadfast support. Now therefore, let it be resolved that I, Cameron Bregman, the Mayor of the City of Lodi, do hereby proclaim the week of October 19th through 25th through 2025 as Friends of the Lodi Public Library Week, and encourage all residents to celebrate the Friends' outstanding service, advocacy, and commitment to the Lodi community. And one thing I would like to note is that the Lodi Public Library out of the entire county, per person, per resident, actually has the highest use. So we really do have an amazing public library. It's one of the cleanest and best facilities in Lodi, and I really do contribute that to all the partners inside of it. So Catherine, if you want to say a few words.
I would appreciate that. Thank you so much. Stop that. The Friends of the Library was actually founded in 1979 by a group of women from the Lodi chapter of AAUW. They decided they really wanted to support the library and promote literacy. That was their mission. And since that time, as the Friends have grown and developed, our commitment to that mission has just deepened. In fact, as of this September, the last day in September, we now have over 100 members, and we have 60 very active volunteers, which have raised, end of September, over $47,000 this year. We did that with 2,282.5 volunteer hours. That's a lot of hours. And so we're very excited, and we really are committed to keeping our library strong and welcoming. Therefore, we would like to encourage everyone next week, September 19th to the 25th, to come in and join the Friends. Become a member. Support your library. It's such a great place. Thank you.
Thank you. And next up, item B2, we have a certificate of recognition presented to Wat Khmer Temple Association for the first Southeast Asian Festival in Lodi. If everyone from that committee would please come to the podium now. And I would like to know, I believe this event and festival took place about a month ago. And just for a little bit of a dialogue here, there have been some worldwide phenomenons leading to the destruction of quite a few Cambodian temples and historical sites, some being over 1,000 years old, by, I believe, the country of Thailand. And I don't know if they're still in a place of war, but what I can tell you is all of Lodi mourns with you in the sense of the lives lost and the history lost. And what I can also add to that is, as well as a few other officials that had visited when you put on the festival. I mean, the show of hospitality was absolutely amazing. So to be able to bring a community together to celebrate, the people that you do have in this country is just a very commendable, very beautiful thing. So, and again, just to reiterate something, they put on this festival because of the strife and war in their own country right now. So, keep them in your prayers, and if you do see them on the streets, give them a shake of the hand and say, good job for putting this event on. So,
Thank you, Mayor.
Over to you now.
Bên này cái thọt dưới.
The Lodi City Council extends its congratulations to the Southeast Asian Night Festival Committee on the success of the first Southeast Asian Night Festival in Lodi. The festival provided opportunities for the community to experience the region's rich and diverse cultures through music, art, food, and traditional ceremonies. The festival united attendees from various backgrounds through shared cultural experience. The dedication to fostering a deeper understanding of our vibrant city and engaging our community is greatly appreciated. We commend your efforts in contributing to a more informed, active, and engaged community. Signed this 15th day, October 2025. And if you want to say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor, for putting our Wat Khmer Lodi on the map, because we've been so quiet lately, but now everybody recognizes. Thank you very much for giving us a letter of recognition. Appreciate it very much.
I also like to say a little something. Next events when we have, please welcome to come and join us. Lots of delicious food and arts and music. So I want all of you to come and join us as well. Thank you.
Yes. Also, a big thank to my team. These are all my team that works really hard to make the event working. Big thank to my team. Thank you.
One picture. And then, you want to take a quick photo of them?
Yeah.
By the way, if you go to their festival next year, watch out for the barbecue sauce. It's actually hot sauce disguised. And I got to drink 2 water bottles within a few seconds. All right, guys, we'll bring it out really quick. And then I'll let you hold it in the middle. And item B3, recognition of Mayor for a Day contest winners and participants. We have certificates of participation for Elsie, Eshika, Oliver, Brooklyn, Connie, and Gracie. If all of you, if you are here, please come to the podium now. All right, I'm not going to bring them all up. What are your first names? Sorry. Gracie and Connie, okay.
Mayor, if I can give just a little background on the program.
Absolutely, please do.
So we started, the city clerk's office started last year a program called Mayor for a Day. And it's a contest where students from all over the city are able to submit what they would do if they were mayor for a day in Lodi. And that includes, they could present PowerPoints, essays, videos, whatever they would like. And so this year we had participants, and then we'll have the presentation of the winners. And I'll turn it over to the mayor.
Absolutely. By the way, you guys can come over here. You don't have to stand in the middle. Are your parents here? Do they want to come up too? Maybe help support the kids, unless you're more scared than the kids are right now. That'll be pretty pitiful, so it happens. Well, what I can say is that city government is one of the most interesting things that I've ever had the chance of witnessing, and I think that, younger individuals, I once was one of those. The connection between our schools should be so much more. And, we do government classes all the time, but do we really teach government, and do our students really understand, what their government in their own city is like and how it functions? And so I look at very small programs like this, but it's just a huge benefit to our community to understand, again, how the system that we live works. So I commend you for writing the essays that you did and for doing what you did. And you know what? I hope that you learn more each and every day, because it does add up, and all that stored up, knowledge and wisdom, you'll use it one day. So I will say it one more time. This certificate is proudly presented to Gracie Balonas. I'm saying that correctly, right? No? Okay, I'm sorry. Balanas. All right, Gracie Balanas, in recognition of your outstanding participation in the 2025 Mayor for a Day contest. Your creativity, dedication, and desire to be a part of your city's leadership has been essential in the success of the contest, and I am pleased to recognize your enthusiastic civic engagement. All right, so here's yours. There you go. And Connie Howen. I think I know some of the Howens. Oh, man. This certificate is proudly presented to Connie Howen in recognition of your outstanding participation in the 2025 Mayor for a Day contest. Your creativity, dedication, and desire to be a part of your city's leadership has been essential in the success of the contest, and I am pleased to recognize your enthusiastic civic engagement. All right. Do you want to say anything? Nothing? Now's your chance. No? Oh, did the parents want to say anything? Okay. That was a quicker answer than them. Let's take a quick photo really quick. You guys want to get in? They don't look terrified, do they? Very nice to meet you. Yeah, I know most of the Howlands from church, and actually at my old church, we had Phil Panino, Jack Seaglock, Doug Keene at one point, quite a few of the past mayors, so it seems oddly doing time, so. All right, next up, we have a honorable mention, Nora Dolly. Olivia, if you would go over that.
Daly, Nora Daly.
Daly. Not here. Do we have a Jesse Granados? We do. All right, if you would please come forward. It is a plaque, okay. All right, so you got third place. Very nice to meet you, by the way. Yeah. It's not as big as mine. Size doesn't matter, though. Here you are. And do you want to say any words?
I wasn't really expecting a speech, but I wrote it with the intention of helping kids my age and everybody going through something. And I hope to just be a part of something great in the future. And yeah, I don't really know what to say. I wasn't expecting the speech, but yeah.
It's commendable. The more you speak, the easier it'll get. And what I will say is, fortune favors the bold, and so whatever you do, just go out and do it. Have no fear. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that this generation makes is not doing enough in our youth, right? And it's like this is the age to get out there and make mistakes in the sense of being a tryhard, right? I mean, doing essays or doing public service projects to get your name out there, or starting a business, or plural businesses. And so whatever you have to do it to the best of your ability. And this is actually the first time I'm meeting you, but I think we all go through something hard, from our childhood, no matter at what level or what type of hardship it is. But just know that you can use that hardship to actually make yourself better and the world around you better, right? Because you got to take that experience and say you lasted through it and then share it with the world. The last thing I would mention is, take this award and don't ever put it in a closet. Put it on a wall to remind you the importance of community and the place where you started out and the place that you grew up, because it's a piece of you, right? And hopefully one day, maybe not now, but you'll be able to give back to the community, and just know that that community will also give back to you. Maybe not fiscally, but in the sense of peace of mind, peace of heart. When you give to another human being, it actually helps yourself quite a bit. So thank you very much for entering into the competition and for coming here tonight and saying a few words. So thank you very much. We'll take a few quick really quick. Are you the dad?
Oh, no.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, which dad? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. You want to say a few words? Give us all the stories.
Oh, wow. I just want to say to Jesse and Brian, I'm both really proud of you guys individually for the growth that you guys have had from working with me, giving me the pleasure of working with you, and just even joining this and putting yourself out there. I know you guys did both put a lot of work into this. So I'm just proud of you. From the bottom of my heart, I'm proud of you guys, and just congratulations.
All right. Brian Martinez. So you scored 1 point higher. It's gonna be a lifelong red right there. Yeah. I'm gonna award you this right now. I'll let you say a few words and I'll follow up.
I wanted to thank you for giving out this opportunity, and wanted to thank Nick Leon for approaching me about the opportunity and giving me a chance to show myself and my dedication for the city and help others have understand a way to help and a way to hopefully make things better and safer for our community.
And are you family or friends? I gotta ask. Oh, okay. Well, I tell you what, friendships are one of the most beautiful things in life. And you know, who you hang around is most likely who you're gonna be. So find good people and stick to them. You will usually see myself with a bunch of 85-year-olds at the coffee shop. So I really have a doctorate in health problems. But anyhow, you know what? Find people that you want to be like, and again, take as many notes from them as you possibly can. So I commend you for being here tonight. I commend you for what you've done, and I commend you for who you can be, both in this community and possibly somewhere else. So remember, you can be whatever you want to be if you put your mind, heart, and actually work ethic towards it. So thank you very much. And if you want to take a photo. And in first place, we have Georgia Merritt. All right. Now, truth is, I've said so much, I got nothing else to say. No, give it to a politician. Here you go. And I think we're going to have Maria read off your speech really quick. So I'm going to stand right there. Don't look at the audience. It helps.
I'm going to read Georgia's essay for her. This is the essay that she submitted that won her first place. If I was mayor for a day, the possibilities would be endless. I would try to help Lodi the best I could. First, being mayor for a day would be awesome because I could be in the room where it happens. If you watch Hamilton, you know, you get that reference. Okay, I think that it would be such a cool memory to meet the mayor in person. Check. Even though it's definitely a lot of work to be in charge of Lodi. I always wonder how people do it. Being mayor would definitely be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see how everything works. Next, being mayor for a day would include lots of information to learn, like how do you keep everything in control? It would for sure be difficult to keep track of issues, paperwork, or anything that has more responsibility than an everyday job. If I was mayor for a day, I would probably make the parks safer, where you wouldn't have to worry about homeless people being unsafe, but nothing too crazy so everything stays pretty normal. Possibly, we could fix up water fountains or put in more. It would also be cool to have everybody pitch in to beautify Lodi. Lastly, if I was mayor for a day, I would love to test my skills on cooperation and how many things I could handle. With all the work you do, I would love to help you out so you wouldn't have as much to worry about. Helping our community of Lodi would be great, considering I love helping. No harm in trying. I would make a food drive for the ones who need food, while trying to make it as happy of a day as possible, letting people make safe adjustments to our city. It would be so cool to see everyone doing their own thing, but in a helpful way. It would be fun to jam in all the improving things that I could think of that would make Lodi happy. After all, being your right-hand man, even if it's just for a day, would be great. Thank you, Georgia Merritt.
Well, I will say one thing. I read that and I'm like, you know what? There is one thing you can't replace, and that is a genuine love for helping others and helping your community. And that really showed through your paper. So I absolutely love it and really do commend you for, again, being that way in your heart. So never change that. Don't let anyone else change it, and only continue to grow. So, and if you want, we'll go ahead and take a quick photo, and then you can go sit down in the very corner away from everybody else. So. Do the parents want to say anything? If it doesn't look like I'm smiling, I promise. Their parents are gonna be. You got it. Oh, I'll let you guys do that. Well, I tell you what, with all that's gone on the last year, we're finally to the very end of it, and it's all these feel-good meetings, so wish we would have had some more of these. And I would like to have a special thank you to the Lodi Youth Commission subcommittee that assisted in reviewing all these submissions and applications. So thank you again. Don't know if is anyone here from the Youth Commission tonight? I don't think so. Okay. All right. Thank you. And it's not even last but not least yet. B4, Mr. Charlie Swimley. Where's he hiding? Oh, okay. You got one more night left. All right, you guys ready to give him hell? No. We have a retired officer that's on his side. So, yeah. Anyhow, Charlie, if you would please join me at the podium. We have a presentation of recognition of retiring Public Works Director Charlie E. Swimley, Jr. And if we could get a round of applause. Oh, this is for the next person, right? I'm just joking.
Is it as big as yours?
Not quite, no.
Okay, gotcha.
Well, you know, we give this key to Charlie tonight, but the truth is he actually does have the actual keys to the city. So I hope, you know, what would be really neat is if you just get a copy of one and put it right there, because this is signatory. But the truth is, you've been running the city for a very long time. And I got to ask, it's been how many years?
24.
24 years, yeah. And born and raised in Lodi. And actually, one of the first connections that I made with Charlie was through the Lachlan family. And it was off this is how small Lodi is. It's off of a bottle of wine. And I was talking to Bob Lachlan. This was 5 years ago. I used to do landscaping for him. And he had this bottle with a woman on it, and she had some type of bracelet. And, you know, it was good wine. It is good wine. And Bob told me, oh, yeah, and there's a story to this bottle. If you look at the little keychain on it, it has these initials. And those are my I think it was his daughter's initials. And, oh, you're the one. Wow, okay. Well, very nice to meet you in person. Love Bob. And so apparently, you know, your son married Bob's daughter. And that was the first real connection. That was too funny. And so I think that caused an instant kind of connection between us. But to say the least, we've always been had a good relationship, but I do remember the first time when we actually got to work together was over the waste management issue, which, a lot of these issues are very actually contentious. And you know what? You don't realize how many people will come out for potholes and trash cans. It is amazing. And it's a problem all the same. But Charlie, you probably have one of the best departments to have for public input. And you have done well with it in the sense of working with the public and all of the outreach that has to happen with it. So it's not an easy job. It's a lot of red faces at times because people are coming in telling you you're doing your job wrong. And it's what I want to explain here tonight is he hasn't had an easy go. It's a lot of good. You get to work with absolutely amazing people such as myself and the entire team. Sorry. But it really has been a joy to be able, and an honor to be able to work with you. And you deserve more than this key to this city. You deserve a lot more than that. And I don't think that anyone else will be able to step in your shoes is the director. They have size 15 shoes to fill. And just for the public to know too, he runs so much as far as the department goes that we've talked for years about having to split it up because it's too much of a job, okay? It is a massive job. It's probably the biggest director job in the city. And just know that, the directors of this city, they're a part of the city. They love this city. A lot of them live in the city. And they see you each and every day, just like I do. And they do have a heart for the city. So just again, when you see them on the streets, give them a pat on the back and say, good job, Charlie. So thank you very much for what you've done. And I'm sure what you'll continue to do in the community. So if you want to say a few words.
Pretty cool. Thank you, Mayor. It's an honor to receive this, and it's an honor for the recognition. It's been a wonderful run. 24 plus years. We were able to live and work in the same town with our family, raise our boys who are now raising their families here. And so to look back, it's gone by in a blink. We've done a lot of great things, this team. And so I guess the primary subject of what I want to say tonight is thank you. I want to say thank you to my beautiful wife for the support she's given me. I want to say thank you to my wonderful family who is here in Forest tonight. Thank you so much for being here. Oh my God.
Oh, already got it covered. Charlie always was a pink guy, so.
Well, I'll give this one to my mom. Holy smokes, always thinking. But really, I owe so much to my family. I owe so much to my work family, who's also here tonight, a lot of them. Without their support, I couldn't do this job. I owe thank you and support to the council and the councils that I worked with. I need their support to move things forward and to kind of put things, I've been talking about this, I got to put a little math thing together. But over the roughly 10 years I've been director, we have about 20 meetings a year. And so that's 200 meetings, 200 times I've warmed that seat back there. And each meeting has about 10 council actions where our team requests the council team to consider and approve some order of business for the city. So that's like 2,000 decisions over the course of that time. that the council has largely supported our department, and I want to say thanks for that. Again, I'm very blessed to have had the opportunity. I'd love to call out everybody that's made the trip down here. It's super special, but I know that we're shorter on time than that. But thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Council. Thank you, James, for stepping in. And we'll see you around town.
Then we'll do a couple photos. All right, we're gonna do all the family with Charlie in front first. If the family does want to take a photo, forget about this having to be quick.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what.
We need to take a photo.
This key's so big. All right, work family.
Before we move on, Charlie, we have a representative from your Public Works family that would like to say a few words.
Just me? Well, this is very official. Good evening, everyone. My name is Travis Cars. I'm the water plant superintendent, and I could not resist seizing this moment to embarrass Charlie further. He absolutely hates being the center of attention when it's positive. I don't think he minds so much when it's presenting an item. I did prepare something, but I don't think I'm going to read it. I'll keep it short and sweet for your family. So, most of this is, thank you for being an honest man, for being a man with integrity, and for leading by example. But I think that's kind of like thanking a snail for being slow. I don't think you can help it, Like, that's just who you are. So it didn't really seem appropriate. But I guess, kind of as we go into the passing the torch for next Public Works Director, I'm going to say, I don't think anything's really going to change. And I mean that in the best way possible, because I think a lot of Charlie has rubbed off on all of us, and we'll be fine. Keep chugging along. And that was it. Thank you, Charlie.
You guys are in good hands. Public Works will be great.
Remember, this is your last night to heckle him. Uh-oh. Comment card. All right. Oh, you know what?
Allison Champion from the Wine Grape Commission.
Allison is here. Perfect. Thank you for making that choice. All right. So this was an interesting proclamation to bring up, especially now. As many of us already know, the current conditions for the Lodi farming community are in shambles. People are pulling out grapes, people are losing their livelihood, and going from a happy situation more or less to a very sad one very quick. Lodi's foundation is quite a bit on farming, agriculture, and multi-generational grape farmers. So I did want to do something small on behalf of the city to try to spur any type of recognition or advertisement for the city in the sense of wine tourism. And I stand here today and tonight with the Zinfandel Capital of the World proclamation. And this is nothing new. Lodi's been the Zinfandel capital for probably 15 plus years. And I do believe that one day the wine industry will turn back into the right direction. But until then, it's going to be a hard road to drive on. And my heart, and I believe the entire city's heart, goes out to all the farmers dealing with this situation. And I do know that there's a few groups out there trying to do good and trying to make a difference. I do know that one of our past mayors used to be even the wine commissioner, Mr. Mark Chandler. So again, if you are able to spend money in Lodi, spend it often and spend it at wineries. And I'll continue with the proclamation here. The first Zinfandel vines were planted in Lodi in the 1880s, and some of the ancient vines that survived Prohibition remain productive today. Lodi's unique Mediterranean climate, fertile delta soils, and innovative farming practices have made it one of the most productive and diverse wine-growing regions in the nation. Lodi is the center of California's wine grape growing region, over 100,000 acres of vineyards, and produces more than 40% of California's premium Zinfandel grapes, contributing significantly to the state and nation's wine industry. The city's long-standing dedication to sustainable viticulture and family-owned vineyards has preserved the integrity of this land and the legacy of its winemaking traditions. Lodi's Zinfandel grapes are internationally recognized for the distinctive character, rich, bold, and full of flavor, embodying the passion and craftsmanship of the Lodi community. The Lodi Wine Grape Commission and local vintners have worked collaboratively. It's late for this word. Collaboratively, I'm going to skip it, to elevate Lodi's global reputation, earning the city the well-deserved distinction as the Zinfandel capital of the world. Lodi proudly celebrates its agriculture heritage and wine culture through communities events such as ZinFest, Lodi Wine and Chocolate Weekend, and countless local winery experiences that attract visitors from across the globe. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that I, Cameron Bregman, the mayor of the city of Lodi, do hereby recognize and celebrate the city of Lodi as the Zinfandel capital of the world and encourage all residents and visitors alike to take pride in and support Lodi's world-class wine growing community, signed on this 15th day, October 2025. And I'm going to let you say a few words and accept the certificate.
Thank you so much. Lodi produces exceptional Zinfandel thanks to our community of growers and winemakers. There's never been a better time to support your local farmers, to drink Lodi wine. So get out there, get some Zinfandel, raise a glass, and cheers. Thank you. It's a good harvest, yes.
It's a good harvest.
Good harvest. Good.
Okay.
The grapes are in good shape.
Good.
Yes.
So if you ever are going to buy a year, this would be a good year to buy it. Then quick photo. All right, and that's it for the proclamations. And moving to consent calendar, do we have any members of the public that would like to pull an item for more information or separate voting? Please come to the podium now.
Mayor, I'll just note that C5 is being requested to be pulled by staff.
Staff.
So otherwise, we submit the rest of the consent calendar for council's review and approval.
Okay, thank you. Seeing none of the community, I will move to council.
So a quick comment on C5. So this project is in my neighborhood and it's been very contentious for the past 4 years, even before I was in council. So I have been talking to staff and people from the community because nobody knew that this item was gonna come. So it will come like probably next city council meeting. And if somebody reads this later from the community, please come to city council next time so we can hear what are your opinions about this project. And that's it.
All right, and do we have any other council members that would like to pull items?
I do a question to city staff, perhaps our city manager. C10, has Mr. Ball made a request to, he couldn't be here tonight, is my understanding, or he wasn't able to be here tonight. Do you want to keep that on for now, or what would you like to do?
I think at this point in time, since we did not hear back from Mr. Wall, that we go ahead and continue this item. Unless
We have heard.
My apologies.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
no, my apologies. Yes, we have heard, and he is okay with moving forward.
I just want to clarify that.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, very good, very good. Thank you. No, Mr. Mayor, no other items to pull.
All right, and any others? Seeing none, excluding C5, I will now take a motion.
Move to
The
approve.
consent calendar.
Second?
All in favor? And passes unanimously. Going to the non-agenda items now. Do we have any public comment cards?
Yes, I have two comment cards. The first comment card I have is from Ruben Hernandez.
And if you would go over the 5 minutes really quick.
You did say this is the last chance to echo that. But not really. I've kind of come to the conclusion that criticism is nothing unless it's constructive. So if I say bad, maybe I have something to say about how you can improve. I know the garbage, you mentioned garbage and potholes. I'm here about the garbage. So without making it a real long story, I got a letter from Waste Management. It says, bad boy, you put something wrong in the recycling and blah, 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 consequences, money, 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 bad boy. So I spent a few hours trying to contact somebody, and a couple of times I got through where they said, hello, my name is start all over again. And then finally, hello, my name is. So I finally came to the city, and the finance department said, not here, go to Public Works. They take care of that. So I talked to the lady, she was very, very helpful, and she explained to me that this note was for the year. I said, well, I can't really see that picture, but it looks like foam or styrofoam or something in there. And last year, bad boy, no styrofoam. So I wouldn't do it again. I'm only 73, but I'm still not senile. So I'm looking at this thing, and the lady was nice enough to tell me that was for last year. You get a warning once a year, so you're on a new year. Okay. She told me the number to call where I actually got somebody, and I talked to this nice lady, and we went over it. And I said, well, if we can't resolve this, I could take action without going into it. But I said, what was wrong? I'm looking at it, it looks like styrofoam. And she says, it's more like a tray. And then I really looked at it, and it was a tray that I used to put kitty litter in. And I don't use it anymore, so I threw it in there. And it's about, say, this size, and the garbage can's this size. So it wasn't jammed in there. And I said, what was the problem with this? Plastic, it's recyclable. She goes, yeah, they would rather you throw it in the trash because they said it was bulky. So when I talked to the lady at Public Works, I said, I've never read anything about bulky. And I said to this lady that I was talking to from the garbage company, if I cut it up, 2 or 4 pieces, could I recyclable plastic, put it in there? She said, let me check with somebody. She checked, and they said, yeah, if you cut it up and put it in there, it was perfectly acceptable. It was just, they didn't like it because it was bulky. They told me I should talk to somebody in Public Works so they can talk to them about being more specific. I live on Turner Road, I get lots and lots of traffic. And over the 14 hours that my bin is out, anybody could put anything in my recycling. So without having a recourse, other than you're a bad boy, and spending hours trying to talk to them, we're new at this garbage thing, where I spend hours and hours and hours getting new recycling bins, new garbage bins, blah, blah, blah. So we're still learning. So maybe somebody could come up with an idea. And you can't watch garbage can all night. I have cameras, but they're not that great. I get a lot of traffic going by my house, going to the habitat, the Lodi Lake. And, sometimes they need the cans in there and stuff, and they leave it all over the street. But that's just part of what's going on. I don't see an answer to that, but maybe somebody could talk to the garbage company and say, you got me on radar. When did you calibrate that radar gun? So you have a recourse. And right now we don't. Thank you.
And just to confirm your issues, you're saying other individuals are polluting your trash can, throwing stuff in your trash can?
No, but I've seen
Okay.
where some people are saying, this isn't my garbage. I see the picture, but this isn't my garbage. And according to them, they do it by GPS.
Okay.
So
If you can, go ahead and leave your contact with Olivia, and perfect, and I'll call you tomorrow, if that works. Yep. Get in contact via email as well. Any more comment cards?
I have one more from Nate Knott. My apologies if I mispronounce.
Actually, it would be Knott in German.
I had a feeling the K was
Somewhere we're
silent.
probably related to Knott's Berry Farm, but they don't send me any checks, so anyway. So I know most of you here tonight don't know me, but I have great memories of Lodi. I'm speaking as an individual private citizen, but I am speaking on behalf of San Joaquin RTD. But before I mention it, I just want to say I conducted many public hearings here in the historic Carnegie Hall, the Lodi Library, which was honored tonight, and over at the Lodi Transit Station. And I've ridden the Route 93 many times, as recently as last year to attend a big-time NorCal luncheon over at the Hutchins Street Square. So anyway, I'm here speaking as a private citizen on behalf of San Joaquin RTD, the local countywide transit district. I'm commenting primarily, I should say in the interest of full disclosure, I was a former director of planning for San Joaquin RTD. And so my staff and I designed a lot of the routes and schedules and conducted a lot of the information that was sent into state local government. I'm commenting primarily because of a letter that originated in Lathrop that tried to paint RTD in a very bad light, and they used the Route 97, the county route, as a poster child for this. They used 2023 data right after it restarted from COVID, showing it having hundreds and hundreds of dollars cost per passenger subsidy. Well, in 2025, since 2023, the Route 97s had a 5-fold increase in ridership and a 2/3 reduction in operating costs. So if you're going to quote that route, quote the 2025 data. On the good side, I'd like to mention Route 93, thanks to some restructuring and various things that were done, has actually had nearly doubled its ridership since 2023 and has a plus 80% ridership increase in the last 2 years. Using 2023 data for 2025 decisions is like taking a previous election to declare this year's winners and results. So anyway, moving on, the letter also states that RTD should not operate intra-city services within cities. I have to tell you as a route planner, if you're going to design a route such as the 93, you don't pick up at Kettleman, you don't make people hitchhike or Uber to Kettleman Lane to catch the bus and then get off at Hammer Lane in Stockton and then Uber into downtown Stockton. You are going to run the route within those cities to get people where they have to go. And I was actually part of a movement way back in 2005 to streamline the services within each city so RTD would not be competing with the local transit districts such as Lodi Grapevine. I can mention that RTD has a much lower cost per passenger than most city systems, with the exception of one, and I want to say that Lodi has an excellent cost per passenger with its Lodi Grapevine. RTD has about over 3 million passengers this year. In the peak time before online things happened and before a drop in enrollment in Delta College and various other things, and before COVID, RTD has carried as many as 5 million in a single year. 86% of the county ridership by transit is RTD. So my greater point is RTD should be fully funded to what it's entitled to have. There's funding being held up right now on SB 1, and I know most of you folks don't know exactly all the details of this, but SB 125 and Measure K, your local self-help sales tax, regular funding and urgency funding that's entitled to go to RTD or most intended for RTD is being held up at this time. And that money should be released to RTD as is appropriate. And one reason I want to say that is RTD's taken great lengths in the last couple of years to improve their service. They've restored routes suspended by COVID. They've doubled the frequency of trips on many of the trips in Stockton. They've improved the county service dramatically from 2 years ago, extending the range of hours earlier in the morning to later at night, and that includes the 93, of course. They've restored Saturday service from Stockton to BART. So they've done a lot of good things like that. Last thing I want to close with, and most people don't know this, but 36% of all Americans can't drive a car for age or medical reasons or other reasons. And so there are people who really do need public transportation, and they're not all on welfare or food stamps or something. And a lot of regular everyday people ride buses. And I've never heard anyone ever complain about an empty road, only empty buses. In a rural area such as San Joaquin County, by the way, San Joaquin RT is the 5th largest county operation by geographical size in the United States. I think Lodi Unified is the largest school district in California by geographical size. Anyway, in rural areas such as San Joaquin County, many paved roads are actually glorified driveways to people's homes that have very few trips per year, but no.
Thank you for your comments.
By the way, the Benitos and Jack's Eagle Eye. I'm kind of an old timer. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Lisa, do you want to add any comments?
All I was going to say is, and maybe Mr. It's not, or
Not,
the
yes.
German, I want the German pronunciation.
Oh, Canode.
Canode, okay. Mr. Canode, I believe RTD has a board meeting at 10 a.m. this Friday, correct? I'm just telling you, we've been invited as members of the COG, and I chair the Rail Commission to attend. So there are some members that will attend that meeting. So
That's good, I appreciate it. Also, are you on the ACE Rail Commission?
yes,
I
I'm
thought I
chair.
recognized you. Before you were on it, I was ex officio there for 12 years.
Okay.
So it's nice to see you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And any other comment cards? All right, do we have any members of the public that would like to speak on any non-agendized topics? If so, please come to the podium now. Seeing none, I will move to council on any non-agendized topics.
I think very quick that I get all those notices from the trash company too, because I think is we are all learning together how we have to recycle now. And I, I'm not an expert, it's confusing sometimes, so don't feel like you don't understand the process. We just need more information, and hopefully we'll get there so we can have a better California.
Full disclosure, I got a bad boy letter as well.
Frame that one, Charlie.
You know when I said when people turn red? Charlie. All right.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, a number of us attended the League of California Cities Conference this past week, and I just want to highlight a couple of things that I think, we always learn something new every year, but I want to just commend, there were a couple of members, I think the mayor was sitting behind me at the ethics training, and it was the best ethics training that they've ever had. Okay, so just when we all do our reviews, please tell them, do this guy again, okay? Because the 2 hours went by really fast. Really good examples, much more reality-based than, examples involved, so that was good. A couple sessions I just wanted to mention that I really will end up following up with our city manager on. Excellent presentation on a general plan update from a combination of cities that have done updates on general plans and from consultants that have assisted with those, that gave some very good pointers on how to do a general plan update much more economically. And I think that there were some things that I learned on that that I think would help us kind of constrain our general plan update to the essential items. So it'd be worth discussing with community development how that process can be done in a way that really is focusing on attracting investment and streamlining development. So excellent presentation on that. In a legal session, very good presentation on low-income housing tax credits. The more information that we can get out about those LIHTC grants, I think the better served we will be in finding those individuals or supporting those individuals trying to do affordable housing. So it's a very complicated process because I've been involved in those projects, but California makes it that much more complicated. So anyway, just a couple of comments on some of the sessions. And then just a note that those of us here know we serve on various other commissions that we have responsibilities to. Myself and Councilmember Hothe are both dealing with searches for CEO replacements on organizations. I'm on the Rail Commission, and it's been quite exhaustive. So there will be a new CEO after 26 years of Stacey Mortensen serving. She has stepped down, and we are in the process of final interviews for a CEO for the Rail Commission, which is a $2 billion capital program over the next few years. So that's all I have to say.
All right, and do we have any other comments?
So I was not with you guys at Cal Cities, but I was in Tech Week in San Francisco, which is the biggest tech week, I think, in the world, where people from all over the world come, and I was able to have conversation with VCs, with founders about what technologies they're working on. Some people are even working on government, because sometimes we think, oh, tech companies, they don't work in government, and some are using AI to make the, like, for example, public school or community development faster, the review, using newest technologies, and I could still continue with those conversations that we can bring some of that technology to Lodi.
All right, thank you. And we did get a new CEO for the Delta Conservation, or Delta Conservancy, thank you, which the city of Lodi does partake in a representative fashion. So we do have our CEO filled now. On any case, without other further items, I'm going to move forward. Moving to item F1, Madam City Clerk, if you would go over it.
Yes. Item F1 is a public hearing, and rather than reading it all right now, I will read it later in the motion. So I will turn it over to our Deputy Director of Community Development, Cynthia March, and she will present on this item.
Give the PowerPoint a second to, oh, interesting, it's not picking up my PowerPoint. Oh, thanks. AI generated. I emailed it to you earlier, minus that one change. For some reason, my email's not picking up in here, Olivia. But
Do we want to skip over the item for now?
No, because I have that.
she's got it, okay. So you may recall that for the last couple of years, we've been doing these phased updates incrementally, just chipping away a little bit at a time at the development code updates. We had a study session, if you can flip to the next slide, Olivia, a shirt sleeve session back in February of 2024. So this is our third phase and of those updates, and we'll be doing a fourth phase. So in this third phase, those updates are directed from that study session from 2024, and also those that will include alignment with the general plan and other code amendments that are being updated to carry out the strategic vision work plan of council and ensure consistency with state law, streamlining, and addressing minor cleanup items and corrections for clarity. Next slide. The first section is actually not part of the zoning code, it's part of the building code. So the amendment will add a reference to the California Historic Building Code to provide regulations for preservation, restoration, rehab, relocation, or reconstruction of buildings designated as qualified historic buildings or properties. This is the first step, and we will be continuing in with phase 4 and 5 in building out a historic preservation ordinance in the zoning code. So this is the first step in just recognizing the historic building code and allowing it to be used in the city of Lodi. Next slide. The next section is really exciting. We've been working with the state and the county and other jurisdictions you may have read about have had a lot of enforcement activity related to retail tobacco establishments. And so they provided a lot of input and have reviewed this new section. It's a brand new code section. It will add operation and location standards for the sale of tobacco products, any retail tobacco products, including smoke shops. It creates restrictions on the location within 500 feet of youth-oriented facilities. It creates restrictions on one location being within 500 feet of a second location. It builds out a use permit application process that would be approved by Planning Commission, similar to how we approve ABC licenses and use permits for alcohol. And the establishment of this section will apply to legally existing tobacco retailers. If they are not legally established and have a license with the state of California, this will provide a little bit of enforcement ability for us to partner with the state and close some of the shops down. So there's some additional.
Can I have a question before I forget?
Yes.
So what happens if some like shop is already not, if they're not complying with this law, like what happens in there? So this is for just new establishments, or what
Correct,
happened
yeah.
with the other ones that exist?
The new use permits will apply from the date of enactment of the code, so it'll be 30 days after the second reading of the code. However, state law requires all retailers that sell tobacco to have a state license, and in our discussions with the state, we have found that there are probably around 20 that do not. So those that they would, in order to apply for a use permit, they would have to have a legal license established with the state of California. So we will work with the state moving forward once the code is adopted and goes into effect, 30 days after the second reading, if it should be approved tonight. And it will allow us to partner with the state to begin enforcement activities.
So to clarify, are there existing tobacco retailers that are within 500 feet of
Yes.
currently?
Yes, those would be grandfathered in. So any that are existing, that are legally existing, would be grandfathered in. However, if they do not have a state license, it's kind of parallel to like having an ABC license for alcohol. If you do not have an ABC license for alcohol, you would not be able to get a use permit to sell alcohol. So it's a similar kind of concept, but applies to tobacco retail.
So if you have like a sale of a property, they would have to apply for a new use permit and potentially be non-compliant with the code?
They would be legal non-conforming if they legally existed before the date of this adoption.
So no.
Yeah, so they would be legally non-conforming.
So our
you were
code does allow, if regulations change, an existing use can continue in its current capacity if it was legal at that time when it was operating. So if they are currently legal with the state and continue operations at that same level, they would be considered a legal non-conforming use and could continue. But those that are not, there would be additional procedures. They'd have to become fully legal under this.
Understood. Thank you.
So just to follow up on that, so if someone purchases that business, they can continue that use as long as they meet all of the criteria that they need to relative to state law.
Correct. As long as it was a legal use, existing legal use, they came in, didn't increase intensity of that use, and they were then registered as the retailer and operating legally, they could continue that.
Thank you.
Sure. Next slide, please. So the next section sort of pairs with this is a new alcohol section. Lodi has been regulating alcohol in the regard that we require use permits for on or off sale, but we haven't had definitions or specific location requirements. We have been just relying on state law. So we are implementing an alcohol beverage sales section for both off and on sale that really lays out what are the requirements for use permits and has the findings that will be included in a use permit conditions of approval right there in black and white. So there's no surprises. It's all objective. Right now, a lot of times when we put conditions into a use permit, it might be subjective because we don't have any specific local guidance from our code on what to include or not to include. So this will enable us to enact more objective standards, and everything will be laid out. The expectations are going to be set right up front. So when someone comes in for a use permit for alcohol, they'll have reference to this section and they'll know exactly what the requirements are before they even apply. Next slide. These are just a summary of additional amendments, correcting the RMD, which is residential medium density zoning, to 3 stories. We had thought it was 3 stories, and it has been treated as 3 stories, but there was, I believe, a typo that had 2 stories in the code. We are opening up religious facilities or churches in the industrial zone with a use permit. There are some areas in Lodi that are zoned industrial that are kind of more quasi-commercial in use more than industrial. So this would allow with a use permit, a discretionary permit in those circumstances if there was enough parking and such.
We are also reducing parking requirements for one-bedroom duplexes, removing an allowance for tandem parking and carports. We are starting to build out the section for missing middle, which is referred to as the duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, townhouses, cottage courts. In the Phase 4 code amendment, we will be really building upon the allowance of missing middle and those sort of alternative forms of housing. We've had some requests from developers wanting to do smaller lot development and that sort of thing. So this will build out the definitions to start and build upon those. We're looking at reducing senior parking project housing from 0.75 to 0.5 spaces per unit. This is in line with our housing element and a lot of the projects that are being built for seniors, such as the Housing Authority Salis Park project, are providing shared electric vehicle spaces. So this aligns with those uses. And then also a correction to allow minor use permit for drive-throughs and MCE zones, which are similar to MCO zones. Next slide. There's also a cleanup to remove any prior references from the R1, R2 sort of districts. We changed how we refer to our districts as RLD, RMD, and RHD. So we're just cleaning up typos that have been kind of left over for years and allowing multifamily dwellings and accessory structures, adding that in the MCO and DMU zones table, and then additional alterations removing the R1 and R2 references likewise. Next slide. We are amending the definition section to include, as I previously mentioned, those definitions for the different types of alcohol beverage sales. It breaks out what's the difference between a bona fide restaurant versus a nightclub versus a liquor store, and sets what the definition is and expectations for each of those. Different types of missing middle housing types. Some of these relate to like low barrier navigation center, housing element, state law requirements. And then the short-term rentals were including a definition as discussed last year when we did our short sleeve session. But we're not at this time proposing to restrict short-term rentals based on the data because we don't feel that they're at that point where we need to restrict them. But we're including a definition so we can start building on that if we need to in the future.
If I can, could you clarify your comment about definitions related to nightclub?
So under the state law, a nightclub versus a bona fide restaurant, like a nightclub, for example, would not have food. They would just have alcohol. So a bona fide restaurant serves a certain percentage under ABC regulations. I believe it's 50% of their sales must be from food. So they must have food for all hours that they're open as a restaurant. Versus a nightclub, they are not required to have food at all. And a nightclub would not allow like less than 21-year-olds into the nightclub. So it would be a place that's probably open to more like 2 a.m. versus a restaurant would be a sit-down restaurant. So we have had in the past, for example, a nightclub that was licensed as a restaurant and then became a nightclub. And they weren't actually selling food. So we'll have all of those definitions laid out, and they won't be a subjective process to go through. It'll be objective. It'll be very clear. Here's the expectation. Either you choose one or the other. You're not, you're not both. So it'll lay that out in black and white.
Yeah, so you're referring to, I think, the Blend Nightclub and the issue with their use permit. So it sounds like, does this impact their current operations of business?
No. So
They're
anything.
exempted because they're already in their use. They already have their licensing.
Yeah.
I know they were looking, the reason that it came up the first time is because they were looking to acquire the property next to them for a potential expansion, and then there was an issue with their use permit. So that would, sounds like something like that could potentially be
An
impacted.
expansion.
This would not impact them unless they were, say they bought the place next door and it was a different address and a different APN. They may be required to get a new use permit, but if it was connected and it was an expansion of their business and they're in one building, that might be a little bit different. I think we do have in our legal non-conforming section, there's a code section that defines what a legal non-conforming use is, how much they can expand, where they where it would trigger them to lose legal nonconforming. So we've had that on the books for a very long time that says, if you expand, I can't remember off the top of my head if it's 25% or 50% or something around there. If it's larger than that, that could potentially trigger. But we could, work with them to see if that would apply or not. I'm not sure I don't know the exact circumstances of their particular case.
Well, they previously tried to acquire the parcel next to them, and they had to go through a new conditional use permit. And in doing so, almost had their existing use called into question because they didn't meet the 50% requirement. So my concern would be that, this could somehow impact them for some sort of expansion there.
So if there was an existing permit, they're limited by the conditions that are within that, and that runs with the land. So regardless of who the owner is of the parcel, that use permit runs with that specific parcel. If there were changes, expansions to another parcel, that would change what was granted there. So that would be an additional use that they would have to come back and get modifications to that use permit. There's a lot more that went into the blend discussion, and we're not going to open this up as this conversation, but there were multiple uses and I believe 4 different use permits at times on what was used and what was actually being practiced. So there were other considerations involved in that one. But the limitations, if it was you're a restaurant with these hours and this is what is approved, then that's what you're limited to. If you expanded to the other parcel, you'd have to come back because it lays out exactly like Siri's talking to me, I apologize. So you'd have to come back and get, even like if you had a bump out with tables outside your front area on the restaurant and everything, that would have to be expanded with ABC, and that would modify your use permit conditions as well. So it would change and require coming back and making sure it's consistent with your approval.
And I would know, I don't know which way you're leaning or if you have any suggestions hearing all this, but if there isn't something to the liking of what's going on, I mean, we could always get this through because it entails a lot more than just, liquor and food, and amend this later. But let me know your thoughts. I don't have a prerogative.
Okay, if you're ready for the next slide, I think we're just about to the end here. So the next slide, this project's exempt under CEQA 15061B3 and 15378. They are merely code amendments. Each project would be reviewed under CEQA at the time that it comes before us under a discretionary permit. And then finally, the final slide, I'll note that we did receive a comment letter concerning the accessory dwelling unit section, which is 17.36.130. And staff is requesting that that was included in the agendized motion, but we would like to recommend a revised motion removing that section, and we will make some revisions and bring it back with the Phase 4 code amendments that will come back in the future, and that will allow us to make those corrections. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
All right, do we have any
Another
questions?
clarifying question. So just to your last point, Ms. Marsh, you're saying that the letter that was presented to us by Cal HDF with all of the provisions they've stated relative to what they view as compliance with state law, you're going to review all of those and ensure that we're as current as we can be.
That's correct. Yeah, we just received the letter yesterday,
Right.
and they had pretty substantial comments. We did not have time to go through and address those. And state law for state ADU law changes very rapidly. It was amended probably 5 or 6 times in the last 5 or 6 years. So we anticipate there's other changes coming, so we'll integrate those and bring it back to you in 2026 to include all of those encompassed in the amendment.
Okay, so just one other question back to the tobacco. I think what was interesting, because of course we just got this packet today too, so I'm trying to look through the comments made by Vince Nalis on the ancillary sales, obviously you got it too, so I don't know if you have had time to address it, but is it possible to address the comment of ancillary sales that he was referring to? Are you clear, and is that a potential change we can make, or do you have a different interpretation relative to ancillary sales than what he is indicating here?
I think the size related mostly to sales in grocery stores. We did survey grocery stores. Several of them are no longer selling tobacco voluntarily.
Okay.
So in our discussions with the county and the state, they did make several revisions and suggestions to our ordinance, and we felt satisfied with what their suggestions were, and taking a kind of a survey. We did a heat map of different grocery stores that are selling tobacco, and it seemed like the restrictions were flexible enough to allow those to continue if they wanted to.
Okay, so he's going a little bit further than, all right.
Yeah, I think they were wanting us to make it a little more strict, and there was some sensitivity with a large grocery store having a small area where they do sell tobacco, and a lot of them, as I mentioned, probably half of them in Lodi of the grocery stores are no longer selling tobacco, just voluntarily.
Okay. I think my last question is related also to the map that he conveniently included in the packet, and the concept of youth-oriented facilities. We're not just talking about schools, we're talking about parks, we're talking about daycare centers, we're talking about churches with daycare centers, all of that. So have we actually done that assessment to see how many licensed tobacco retailers there are within that 500? And what do we know about that? Because that's where I start getting into, okay, you got a use permit, somebody else buys a business, you can continue doing it, but you're not supposed to be doing it within 500 feet of a
Correct.
youth-oriented facility. So how do we address that?
Correct. We have plugged in all of this data into our GIS system, and did the heat map of the 500-foot radiuses to see and kind of play out what if someone applied for one here. These restrictions of limiting within 500 feet of a youth-oriented facility and 500 feet within another tobacco retailer will severely restrict the ability for new tobacco retailers and smoke shops to open in Lodi.
Okay, but existing ones that are within 500 feet can continue to operate.
Correct. But this will restrict new ones.
Okay.
So they were asking us, I believe, is my interpretation was to be even stricter.
Right.
And I did speak with someone on the phone, and I let them know, like, we did map it out, and it will very, very much restrict the ability for new ones to come in.
Do we know how many currently are in existence that are within 500 feet of a youth-oriented facility?
I do not know the number off the top of my head. I could probably pull that for you tomorrow.
It's in the packet. About the second or third.
Oh, that letter that came in? Okay, so again, we got it in the packet from those individuals.
The comment letter.
The last thing is, how do we enforce this stuff? I mean, how do we even know that I got a phone call from somebody saying that there was a business that was supposed to be, selling snacks and stuff, and the next they're selling vape products. So how do we even know, and how do we enforce this?
The state agency that regulates tobacco sales has offered to partner with us in the future, and we've been having some chats with the police department about what that will look like. We wanted to hold off until the ordinance is actually adopted to call them down, but our senior planner, Tim Kahaya, has been in contact with them, and they are willing to send down some of their enforcement agents to assist with enforcement when we're ready.
And Stockton did have their own sting, I think it was 8 months ago, pretty massive sting, in fact.
Yeah.
So right now, are we clear who's in compliance and who's not in compliance?
I think we have a pretty good idea that there may be about 20. There may be some that hear about this and rush to go get their state license. Several of them are not licensed by the state at this time. I know at least a couple of those have come to the planning counter, and I spoke with them directly and told them this ordinance was coming down the pipeline last year, and they opened with no state license anyway, even though I warned them that this was coming. So 2 of them are on the list of not having a state license.
Okay, so once this passes within 30 days, again, back to the ordinance, If they're not in compliance, then there's no way they're going to get their license.
They could apply to the state and they could apply for a use permit. That at that time, if they don't have a state license, the state could shut them down.
Okay, all right. It's always important to
Yeah.
have these rules, and then if you don't follow them,
Yeah.
what's the point of having the rules?
Yeah, we have an enforcement plan, I believe, in place, and we're going to coordinate a little bit more in the coming months. Again, I think it'll be about a month and a half before the ordinance goes into effect, and then they'll come back and talk to us. So it'll probably be early 2026.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
So a quick question. So what you guys are going to revise about the ADU units, when can we see that back in the calendar?
The ADU, we actually do have an existing ADU ordinance. It's been amended a couple times already. And we were just doing updates with this one. The amendments were to address changes by state law, which had already changed by the time we brought it forward to you. So we'll just be making additional amendments. In the state of California, any city that does not have an ADU ordinance in compliance with state law defaults to state law, which we follow anyway. We regularly reference the state HCD has an ADU handbook. So we follow state law anyhow. So we currently, just as a reminder, have pre-approved plans that are free and available to the public for detached ADUs and new construction ADUs. They come in 4 different sizes. If you just Google Lodi Planning and ADU, you can find our website and see those floor plans. Those are free to the public. You don't have to do anything other than show us your site plan and how your utilities will be connected, and that your setbacks and site plan align with standards for your neighborhood. And we are pretty proud that we are one of the earlier jurisdictions. We've had those for about I think 18 months or 2 years now. So we do have the free pre-approved ADU plans already in place.
Any more questions? Seeing none, I'm going to open it up to the public hearing at 8:38 PM. Do we have any comment cards? Do we have any members of the public that would like to speak? Mr. Hamilton, you're up.
And I love old buildings. So the one part that I'd like to focus on, Olivia, can you flip to the historic building code slide? Beautiful. I'm very happy we're finally doing this. This is definitely the first step. If you look in the bottom of that paragraph, it says designated as qualified historic buildings or properties. The next step that I would ask you to do is to create a local register. If we have a local register, now I can put a building on that, and then I can invoke this code. Without a local register, I have to go to the state or I have to go to the federal to invoke the code. There's also another loophole that says, if possibly, it could be on, a register anywhere, but all that does, that creates arguments between me as someone who wants to preserve a building and the community development department about whether that's really a historic building or not. So I would encourage us to do what we can to accelerate that process, because we have a lot of really great old buildings in this town. There's also a bit of a misconception by some people that think, well, as soon as you have historic building code, it's used as a weapon against you, and now you aren't allowed to do things. Done right, and I'm confident we will do this right, it actually allows us to preserve buildings in a much more comprehensive and a less costly and a more meaningful way as the owner of the building. It can be turned around, done incorrectly, where I can use it as a weapon and I decide I don't want my neighbor changing anything about the appearance of his house, and I'm going to put that on the register, and then I'm going to hold that against that person. We just need to make sure that our local ordinances are not worded in that fashion. And as long as right now, I think what we're doing is just invoking building code, state building code, that actually allows for that. So as we start laying on the local ordinances, we just need to be careful about protecting property owners from something that could turn into something malicious. Instead, making sure that it really allows them at a low cost and a low effort way to preserve the buildings that we already have in town. That's it. And actually, I know I'm not allowed to address staff directly, so if I could ask you to ask staff, do we have any ordinances that overlay currently the state building code as it relates to historic building code?
Do you want to ask any more questions before you?
I'm done, yeah.
Perfect, all right. Cynthia, if you don't mind taking that over.
We will be drafting in our next round the historic sections that are within the zoning code. Right now, this is, as you mentioned, our first step, and just recognizing the historic building code. In my former jurisdiction that I worked at, some time ago, I was the secretary to the Cultural Heritage Board in that jurisdiction and drafted some of those historic preservation ordinances, so I'm familiar with them. We're going to be working on those. We have 2 new assistant planners who have joined us recently, and one of them is going to start working on that very soon, so we're pretty excited. We're going to be building out. Lodi does not have a cultural heritage or historic building code, historic section in our zoning code whatsoever. So it will be brand new, and we'll be building that out in the coming months in the next round of code amendments.
Mr. Mayor, I might, thank you, Mr. Hamilton.
Thank you.
I have another advocate in the room that is joining me because it's somebody who's put his heart and soul into rehabilitating some of our, best and our own publicly owned historic firehouse and city hall. So I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for bringing this to community development because it also helped to shape my desire to get that survey and inventory into our downtown specific plan. So I would just follow up by saying that in reviewing what is qualified as a historic building under the 2022 California Historical Building Code, a local inventory of properties, which we will have when the survey is completed, is also a qualifier. The local register is important, but to me, it's as important for the potential economic incentives it provides to property owners as well, who have both the carrot opportunity to be able to benefit from that. And I would also point out that it can be a factor in public safety issues when we use our revolving loan fund to be able to, put fire suppression systems in, or ADA, or anything like that, that can be costly in a historic building as well. I'd also say that along with the ordinance relative to the designation and the establishment of a register for local properties, we want to also incorporate the Mills Act and an ordinance to adopt the Mills Act to, again, create an economic incentive for property owners to reinvest in their buildings. So I very much also appreciate the staff putting this front and center. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing the next iteration of ordinances. So thank you.
Thank you.
Just a quick comment. Thank you for bringing the other side of because I always think of the other side. So that some people use this as a weapon to, we all want to protect buildings, but also, like, for example, I'm thinking on Main Street, if we just don't do the ordinance as he's suggesting, thinking about mitigating, then even if we have the developers and everybody, but if they're all registered, we couldn't do any of
No,
it.
you can. There is the opportunity to be able to redevelop, or to not redevelop it, but it comes to the Spark and the Planning Commission to make that determination if the building may need to come down for a better value to the community,
Yeah.
So,
But I think it's good that we're having these conversations and we can balance the interest of preserving, but also that this doesn't get used as a weapon for future development.
Yes.
So thank you for bringing that up.
So how would this ordinance impact something like the Sunset Theater?
Well, can I try? The only thing I would say is not a designated building yet. And so I think our Office of Law is trying to get an interpretation on the process for that. We don't have an ordinance. So in essence, the property owner, to me, has the right to come in and make application. But we just need to make sure that we've done what we needed to do on the city side under CEQA. And I will leave it to the city attorney to follow up with that, because that's about as far as I'll go on that discussion.
Yeah, the project currently is being evaluated under the CEQA evaluation process to see if there are historic impacts that need to be evaluated. We're getting a consultant opinion on that. And then the next step would be going to Spark later on to review the project. So there isn't a separate procedure because the city hasn't adopted its own code, but through the CEQA process, we are looking at those impacts. Thank you.
And so to confirm, Cynthia, none of this will change how the Sunset Theater proceeds? Correct.
That's correct.
We will move on to the next public commenter. Do we have any other members of the public that would like to speak? Please do so now.
Good evening. I'm Brian Campbell. I'm here to speak for the library on the next item, but I figured since I was here, I'd speak on this as well. The missing middle housing is something that's, I think, critically important to Lodi's future, because what we're talking about is townhomes or small lot development is what my peers as other young fathers or people that want to start families as starter homes that just aren't available here in this market. So I think young families, as a third generation Lodian, I know that the young families today are tomorrow's Lodians, and having a place for them to live and to buy a home is very important. So I was very happy to see that the city is considering that, and I hope that we're able to really speed up development there. Thank you.
Do we have any other members of the public that would like to speak? Please do so now. Seeing none others, I will close the public hearing at 8:48 p.m. And any further council comments? If not, I will take a motion.
So moved.
You need to reference the exception of 1736.
So this motion will be to waive the first reading and introduce an ordinance amending Lodi Municipal Code Title 15, Chapter 15.25, Title 17, Sections 17.18.040, 17.20.030, 17.22.030, 17.24.030, 17.32.030, and that would be excluding, so council would not be voting on 17.36.130. So that would be taken out of the motion, and would continue with 17.36.220, 17.36.230, 17.36.240, 17.40.020, 17.40.050, 17.78.2, sorry, there's a lot of numbers in here. And I think that is the last of the sections, the chapters, and this would be, that would be the motion.
So moved as stated.
Second.
All in favor? And first reading passes. Moving to item G1, Madam City Clerk.
So we will start with the regular calendar. Item G1 is to receive a presentation from the library board president regarding the library's role in investing in our community's future. And I would like to invite him back up.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. And I also like to thank, I have our director, Jenny Fontanella, as supporting me as well. And she's got the slide deck, so I'll let her get that up. Thank you. Will Olivia take it?
I think Olivia's going to run the slide deck for us. Yes, you are.
Great, thank you. All right, We'll start with some introductions and some context. Like I said, I'm Brian Campbell. I am currently the president of the Library Board of Trustees. Earlier this year, a call went out to all of the city's commissions asking for them to take some time to present to the board, to the city council about what your board's been doing, how things have been going. As I talked with the mayor about that, it came out that we should probably also be talking about what's going on at the library and give the library a chance to speak for what's been happening there and kind of the exciting things we've done and the exciting places we're looking to go. Yeah, but to go to the next slide, thank you. We have a quote here on just to establish why libraries are important. It's from Andrew Carnegie, who of course this hall is named after because he funded this originally as a library. He said that a library outranks any other one thing a community can do to benefit its people. It is a never-failing spring in the desert. So as we consider our library tonight, I'd like to keep that in mind of it as a spring in the desert, a place that benefits our community. And then to introduce our board, our board has a variety of responsibilities. We'll get into that in the next slide, but our most important is to represent the interest of the city, the interest of the community in the library and in its policies and operations. We're a 5-member board. I'm currently the president. Ms. Melton is here as our vice president. We also have Caitlin Casey and Frankie Kuer have been on this board for 15 years. And they represent incredible experience and leadership, as well as Nick Dalebout, who's been on it about as long as even I have, 3 or 4 years. And we're all passionate about the library and what it can do for our community. So what does the library do? What does the board do? So we have a variety of responsibilities. We ensure the transparency of library operations. The library's policies, the library's budget, the library strategy comes through the board through open meetings that anyone in the community can attend. In those meetings, we also provide oversight. We make sure the budget is being used to benefit our community. We support the leadership. One of our key responsibilities is to hire a library director and to oversee their performance. And then we also represent the community. We have these public meetings as well, just like this meeting, so that we can hear what the community needs and represent their needs to the library, as well as just through our own relationships, being at the library, being here in the community to understand how we can best serve it. So it's been a busy year for the board. We've had in my time with 4 years on the board, we haven't had to hire any directors. I came after Director Manuel Mills was started, but this year we've had to hire both an interim and a full-time director. In response to the Baker-Tilly report earlier this year, staff collected all of the library's policies together for the first time and reviewed them to handle any inconsistencies or duplication, as well as to modernize to represent current operations. So we got to work with them to approve that policy change. And now we're working with our new director, Jenny, to set the strategic direction of the library into the future. So we move to the next slide. Thank you. So about the library, at the core of the library, we provide access to information. That's the books, that's internet. You can get ebooks. Any way we can provide access to information, because information literacy and information is at the core foundation of a free society. Like if people can't read and they can't understand what's happening around them, they can't make informed decisions about their own lives and participate effectively in our democracy. And as the mayor pointed out earlier in this meeting, our library is, for the size of the population it serves, the highest circulating library in the county. The people come to our library. Lodi loves its library. It loves to be there. We have a very high footfall we have over 90,000 people visiting in the year. We circulate almost 200,000 items every year. But we also offer programming, which isn't critical. And our programming serves all kinds of members of the community. Our most attended programming is our family programming. So this is the classic kids story time, crafts. And those benefit the community by creating a love for literacy and a love for the diversity of our community starting from a young age, as well as providing a place for families to come and be together, which I think is important. But we also have a knitting circle. We offer sewing classes, book clubs, movie days for focusing kind of on more adult movies that kind of are meant to serve a wide variety. Like we want to serve as much of the community as possible. Anyone in Lodi should be able to come to the library and find something for them. And that is both programming and in what we offer. And we act just as a hub for the community, a place for people to be. As a father of young children, I've come to appreciate the library as a place that is not my house, that I can go to, that is free. After we're gonna this winter see days of rain, and the summer we see days of heat where we can't just go play outside. We gotta get out of the house. We don't wanna go spend more money at Target. We go to the library. So how's the library been operating? If we can go to the next slide, Olivia. We've, over the previous years, we have been operating well within our budget. And this is both a good and a bad thing. As a good thing, it means that we haven't had to come to the city for much money. It means we've received a ton of support from the Friends and the Foundation, who we'll talk about a little bit later. But it also means we've been forced to ask ourselves this year, have we been using the money allocated to us as effectively as we could? And we have, in response to both the Bicchitelli report as well as Jenny's analysis of what's happening in the library, taken some of that budget that we haven't been using, which has mostly been part-time hours that we haven't filled, and converting that into a full-time position so we can have another librarian at the library providing that experienced leadership and the more senior guidance to the community. And we're of course considering whether we should do that with some more of our part-time hours that we likely won't use this year, to bring in whether we should convert our part-time technician to a full-time technician. So we have someone offering just more time offering services and classes to the community around computers and other technical items. We've also been using the fund balance that we've built up to invest further in the library, replacing our self-checkout machines and making those other investments. I think Jenny will cover some of those in her section. But part of the reason that we have been able to operate in a fiscally sound way is because of our partnership and support from our friends in the library, our friends of the community, namely the Friends of the Lodi Library and the Lodi Public Library Foundation. So as we heard about the Friends earlier today, they do a fantastic job. Their bookstore is incredible, both because it raised, I said, over $40,000 for the library so far this year. If you go to the library and participate in a program, the materials they were likely provided by that bookstore. And I love the bookstore there because by having cheap books, it feeds the little library in front of my house. My wife uses it to feed little libraries throughout the community. So their bookstore is supporting our goals of literacy as well. They also are the grant recipient for the Lunch at the Library grant. So Lunch at the Library is huge. We feed hundreds of kids each week coming through our library, participating in the summer reading program, getting a free lunch, and that's because of both the work of library staff and the Friends to make that possible. And of course, they're actively involved in outreach. They're at community events, representing the library, getting people to sign up for library cards, distributing books. We love having the Friends. And the foundation represents kind of the way people in the community donate to the library. Bequests, large-scale donations go through them, and that goes on to fund large capital programs. Like we had a new patio so that library patrons now have an outdoor space to read and enjoy kind of Lodi's beautiful weather. And that's because the foundation funded building that and furnishing that. But they also fund ongoing initiatives like our teen center, our homework help. Some of our ebook spending comes from them. So we are very grateful for the community for providing that funding, and grateful to our partners at the Friends and the Lodi Library Foundation for making that funding happen and getting it to the library to turn around and support the community. But that is kind of where the library's been recently, but we're excited for where it's going next. And I'm going to turn the time over to our director to speak about that.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Jenny Fontanella. I'm the Director of the Lodi Public Library, and I'm here to talk about the next chapter of the library. So the Lodi Public Library is turning the page to a new chapter, one focused on reimagining our spaces, expanding our reach, deepening our commitment to literacy, and curating collections that inspire discovery and innovation. Over the past several months, we've made real progress, stabilizing operations, strengthening partnerships, and reconnecting with the community in meaningful ways. Now we're looking forward, building a modern library with a local heart, one that reflects Lodi's creativity, diversity, and a sense of community. This next chapter focuses on 4 priorities. The first priority will be space optimization. Our library was built in 1979. It's a beautiful building, and I don't think it's had many furniture upgrades since then. So we need to take a hard look at what a modern library does. A lot of what we do is adapting our spaces to be welcoming, accessible, and adaptable for group study, individual study, right-sizing collections, making sure what we have on the shelves for physical collections are relevant, and weeding out the non-relevant items so people aren't getting lost in that. I've discussed with the board and the foundation the possibility of looking at doing an interior renovation, and they do seem very interested in that. Another item in the space optimization would be exploring a larger makerspace. We currently have a very small makerspace. It has 3 sewing machines and a couple Cricut machines. Makerspaces encourage creative and hands-on STEAM and STEM learning, innovation, and community projects for youth and adults. So kids can come in and do coding and play with makey-makeys, and older people can come in and do sewing projects or tinker with other computer parts. It can be whatever the community wants it to be. So that's something, but it requires space. So we have to take a look at the spaces that we have in the library. The goal is to make the building as dynamic as the activity happening inside it every day. The next effort I'd like to focus on is expanding our outreach. The library is 4 walls. But we don't need to stay within them. We can take our act on the road and go and meet the people where they are. We participated in National Night Out at 3 of the parks. We made sure we had tables and we're talking with the community. We offered pop-up story times during the summer in the parks so we could be outside and enjoy the fresh air and do something a little different. We'll be at the Lodi PD Trunk or Treat. Our Teen Advisory Board will have a booth as well as the library. But I want to focus on other outreach efforts to our older communities in senior living facilities and pop-up places. Not everybody can make it to the location where we're at, so we need to figure out ways to get out and get out to them. The next part will be strengthening our literacy programs. It remains the foundation of what we do. It continues to connect volunteer tutors with adult learners, helping residents build reading and writing confidence. We've been offering mental health first aid trainings, which our staff got certified to present the trainings, and we've certified all of our staff in mental health first aid, but we've also had agencies like the Access Center here in town, and our last round had SMUD employees come down from Sacramento for it. So that was pretty exciting. Our staff was very happy about that. The Open Innovation Center's been coming in and doing programming. They've been doing game development, entrepreneurship, digital skills, helping residents explore new careers and opportunities. So continuing to bring relative forward-thinking programming that meets the community where they're at and brings them the skills and training for free that they're seeking is something I would like to concentrate on. And finally, innovative collections. We are looking at actually curating our own digital collection. We haven't been doing that at this point, but with the fund balance, we've been able to put a sizable amount of money to make it better for our patrons. We're investigating a new integrated library system, which is boring to everybody but library folks, but it'll help us have a better digital footprint and presence, and make it easier for our patrons to browse. Some functionalities that would come with something like that would be a calendar of events, the ability to take a registration for programs, and have room reservations. We have study rooms, we have group meeting rooms, and right now it's not as streamlined as it could be. So this would be something that would be beneficial to us and the public. We'll be adding a new print scan fax station. It's currently routing for approval through the city. This will have a flatbed scanner, a document scanner. People can upload their jobs from home and come in and release them. Our printing is pretty reasonable. It's 15 cents a page for black and white and 50 cents a page for color. And we have people in and out all day long looking to print. So having something newer and better is going to really elevate the experience that we currently have, which is not the most awesome experience. So we want to make that better. So each of these priorities moves us closer to a modern, responsive library that serves the heart of learning and connection in Lodi. So next slide, please. So why the library matters to the city. The library is more than a city department. It's an investment in the community's success and quality of life. It strengthens education, supports workforce readiness, and builds community pride. Families are drawn to cities with strong libraries because they represent safety, learning, and opportunity. Through our programs, we help residents bridge gaps and build opportunities. Children discover a love of reading at story time. Teens engage in leadership and creativity through the Teen Advisory Board and innovative programs. And adults grow through literacy, tutoring, workforce development, and technology access. And seniors stay active and connected through cultural and social programs. Programs like Lunch at the Library, Date Night at the Library, and community events in our parks bring people together across generations and backgrounds. As we invest in the library, we invest directly in the people who make Lodi strong. Libraries are one of the few truly public spaces left, open to all, rooted in trust, learning, and connection. Supporting the library means strengthening the fabric of our city. And next slide. And that concludes my part of the presentation.
Thank you, Jenny. I'm really excited for the future of the library. I think Jenny has done a great job getting established here in the city in the last few months and is bringing a lot of experience and a lot of great ideas to where the library is going. And it's going to change because our goals are not changing, but the way that the library can meet those goals are changing. And I'm excited to be here and part of the library for that. So yeah, just in conclusion, I'd like to thank the City Council for their time this evening, as well as their support of the library, as well as thank all of Lodi for their continued patronage. Is there any questions we can answer for you?
Well, number one, I would absolutely say we appreciate you being here tonight, the both of you at 9:10 p.m. I think this is the first presentation we've ever received from the library, if that's correct, and an absolutely incredible one at that. So I can see our conversations went somewhere, and again, I just am absolutely ecstatic that you guys are here. Great information, and little fact that I picked up is there's 37,000 card holders for the Lodi Library, which is, again, an incredible number. So
That's almost half the residents, which is amazing. That
Yeah.
number knocked my socks off when I saw it.
it's amazing. So thank you again for your work and your effort, and not only what you do on a regular basis, but just in the presentation alone. So any other council comments or questions?
Yeah, I've just got some comments and questions because I am one of those card holders at the library. And as a matter of fact, I went to the library to check out books to use for Read Across America. So I encouraged all the students that I read to to get a library card. And I guess that would be one of my questions maybe to the director. How do we do outreach to the schools to encourage young people to get library cards and take advantage of the library?
So that is something I'm working on. We have class visits that come to the library. We have one coming, I think, on Monday, and they're anticipating about 150 students.
Okay.
One of the initiatives through the state library and its California legislation is that every child by third grade have a library card. And it's something that we're actively working on with the state library. It does require buy-in from school districts, so we're not quite there yet. But there is a mechanism for it coming. There's toolkits and all of that. I have not had the privilege of interacting with any of the schools yet. That is something I'd like to change. I would love to go out and do class visits and talk to them in their spaces about the library and get them excited for it. So things we're working on. I have some ideas that I don't necessarily want to unveil tonight.
I'm glad to hear that, because I know when I've done the Read Across America, at least two of the second grade class teachers said they were doing a field trip to the library. So
Yeah.
that was good to hear. Just a couple of things. I first, when I moved back to Lodi 8 years ago, I first went to the library to do historic research. So one of the things that I still see as a need, because it hasn't really changed, is there's no finding aids. There's the vertical files do not have anything other than just articles or photographs with no identifying information. So I think it would be a very useful idea, even though we no longer have we used to have the California room, which got emptied out to be made into the computer lab, so everything went out into the stacks. So I do think that, as you heard earlier, that we are now focused on some of the history of our architecture, our downtown, our businesses, the people who have made the city what it is, that it would be valuable to really, whether it's digitizing, I know there's been some discussion about digitizing information, the Sanborn maps, historic documents, developing finding aids for those, because, it takes many, many hours to do research. And so that's something I think is important for us to look at. And then I think I really appreciated the workforce development. Right now, I've been working with the Community Partnership for Families. They have a CPF Works program, and I know they said that they have been trying to focus on ESL, on literacy. So I don't know if you have a partnership with them yet, but they certainly would be, I'm sure, a willing partner to work with the library.
I don't, but I would be very interested in connecting with them.
And so they're a wonderful group, Community Partnerships for Families, and
I worked with them in my previous role.
in Stockton,
Yeah.
yeah. And the last thing is, I very much appreciate the library having a space for our poet laureate. Part of our poet laureate responsibilities is to help with literacy. And I do appreciate the fact that we have a space for her to do regular poetry classes, to present. So I hope that relationship does continue, because I think it gives a space for creative opportunities for people to really understand and appreciate not just poetry, but their own learning process of writing in general. So anyway, just a few comments, and thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
So just a few comments. So I've been fan of the library before I was here. Even one day, randomly, I was talking with Kaylin at work, like all the good things about the library. And then she's like, oh, I'm in the board. I'm like, oh, that's super cool. So that was kind of like a side note. So if I was there here, this council, probably I'll be serving at the library board, because I am very passionate about what you guys do. I've been doing projects since I started here with the library, with the previous director. And I'm excited for the future. And even as a council, I want to explore maybe later how we can open the library more, like, because it's closed on certain days when even I want to go, the library is closed. So, and a few residents have commented on that. So maybe it's not possible, but at least I want to have that discussion in the future.
It's already on the radar and in the works. I need to get some staff onboarded, and then we will be ready to roll out some new and expanded hours, for sure.
Is that on our next board meeting or just later still?
It's looking more like January.
January's?
I
Okay.
really need that librarian too before we can take that on, but it is definitely in the works.
Any other questions? All right, well, I don't think we need to accept it. I will move to the public. Do we have any members of the public that would like to make any comments on this? Seeing none. This is informational only, so no vote is required. Thank you very much again.
Thank you.
And look forward to seeing you next time. Moving to item G2, Madam City Clerk.
G2 is an informational presentation for American Legion Park hazard tree removal and replacement. And we have Electric Utility Superintendent Tim Combs here to provide that presentation. I will pull it up momentarily.
Okay, thank you, Olivia. Good evening, Mayor Bregman and council and citizens of Lodi. And I thank you for the opportunity to present this informational presentation on a large tree removal project that we have coming at the American Legion Park, and that's at the corner of Vine and Hutchins Street. Next slide. So this is an overview of the park, and you can see on the north side, many of these trees fell during the January 2023 storms. And then along the west side, many of those trees sustained damage and their root systems are compromised. And so this is the area that we're looking at doing removal of a lot of these large redwood and cedar trees. There's about 32 in total that'll be removed. As we get into the project, we'll evaluate each tree and determine which ones for sure are being removed, but from the ground, we're counting approximately 32 trees. Next slide. So the current tree status, many of them have broken limbs. They've been dropping into the parks, dying treetops. Some of the trees are completely dead. And as we noticed in the January 2023 storms, the root systems of these trees are very shallow, which causes them to fall during high winds. We were very fortunate during those storms that the winds were blowing towards the south, away from the homes. And so they went in and did substantial damage into the parks, but the homes were spared. Next slide. So here's a picture of some of the trees that went down during the storms. They went through the pickleball courts, and again, they made major damage into the park structures. Next slide. So Lodi Electric Utility got together with Parks Department as well as Tree Lodi. Tree Lodi is a volunteer organization that helps work with us for the trees throughout Lodi. They have certified arborists that went through and they actually worked with us evaluating these trees. And that's how we came to the number of 32 trees. They evaluated the ones that were either too near to the power lines or had too much damage or health issues. So we identified the ones that need to be removed. We're going to work with West Coast Arborist and remove the 32 trees. So they'll go through using large bucket trucks, cranes, climbing techniques, and then they'll haul away all the wood. A lot of this wood they repurpose and they sell off at their facility in Stockton, and people make furniture out of it and that type of stuff. So a lot of the wood will be repurposed for other uses. We went through door to door to the surrounding homes to this park. I think it was September 18th, and talked to many of the residents that were home, left informational packets for those that were not home, just kind of informing them of what our intentions are to be removing these trees. They will also grind all the tree stumps and broadcast the chips throughout that area to make it a safe area for the park. Next slide. So this is just a support letter from Tree Lodi. Again, they had a couple of their certified arborists go through and evaluate the trees, and they worked with us to come up with a plan along with the Parks Department. Next slide. So the plan is to remove these trees probably late October, early November is when we want to get started. And then we would need to get in there before it gets too wet so that we can get all this heavy equipment and these trees in and out of there without doing too much damage to the park. And then in the spring, we plan on doing a replant of utility-friendly trees. So they're a much smaller tree. If you go to the next slide. So this is a list of some of the trees that Tree Lodi has on their website. They've identified these to be utility-friendly trees. So the primary 12,000 volt conductors are approximately 35 feet from the ground. And we need to maintain approximately 10 feet of clearance from those trees to be able to safely operate our power lines. So that gives you approximately 25, 26-foot tree. And so this is a list of trees that fit into that criteria. So when we do our replant, we'll be using this selection process to identify which trees to put back in. Next slide. So this is our October council meeting that we're presenting this information. And again, the tree removal, probably going to be early November before we actually get started. And through the month of November, hopefully we'll get this removal done. And then spring of 2026, we look at doing the replant. Next slide. Any questions?
Do we have any questions or comments from council? Do we have any questions or comments from the public? If so, please come to the podium now. Well, it seems like you did a pretty good job, or you're very scary, so.
Or it's late in the evening.
That too.
Thank you.
I will take a motion.
Mayor, no motion is required on this.
Oh, you are correct. All right. Thank you again for the information, and we will move to item G3. Madam City Clerk.
Item G3 is to provide information and receive direction on the Lodi Electric Utility Community Benefits Incentive Discount available to nonprofit entities. And I'll turn it over to our Assistant Electric Utility Director, Melissa Price.
And I think Olivia's been doing such a great job. I'll have you bring up our presentation on that as well, if you don't mind. And while you're doing that, I do just want to quickly mention and offer up to our library director, as you move forward with events, you don't have to go as far as SMUD. You could call us your very own electric utility. We actually support a number of STEM and STEAM programs. So happy to come out with you.
Very cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. I have nothing against SMUD. They're our neighbors. We love them. All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Quick change on the slide, Olivia. We'll get you something updated. Obviously, it's not October 1st. It is October 15th. We are here this evening to talk about what is known as the Community Benefits Incentive Discount. We're going to go ahead and just call it CBID for short tonight. Next slide, please. So the CBID was adopted back in 1996. It provides a 30% discount on monthly electric charges for our 501c3 eligible nonprofit entities who have received CDBG funds in the past 2 years. We have approximately 14 utility accounts receiving that benefit. Those are 14 separate accounts, but they're actually 9 separate entities. Currently, we have 5 that are ineligible under the current criteria. And when we say they're ineligible, they either don't meet a IRS eligible 501c3 status, or they could have been a CDBG recipient, but not necessarily in the past 2 years, or they could have not been a CDBG recipient at all. So currently there are 5 on that list. The cost, we're not talking big dollars here, it's about $30,000 annually. We can't share specifics about the customers, we can't share specifics about the discounted amount for each customer. What I can tell you, we do have one account, one customer that makes up about 40% of that total annual discount. Next slide, Olivia. So back in 2019, we started looking at some of our programs. We reviewed this discount, wanted to look at eligibility requirements. Our prior city attorney at the time indicated that if we were to change any of the eligibility criteria or the program, it could trigger Prop 26 issues. So Prop 26, those of you who are not familiar with it, it was legislation put into effect in 2010, I believe, and it prevents the provision of specific benefit, privilege, government service, or product to a customer whereby the cost is subsidized by another customer. So at the time, staff were directed by the then city manager to go ahead and notify and remove those customers that were ineligible. We started that process. We issued letters to those nonprofits that were not eligible. However, like many things, that was put on hold due to COVID. So we were not shutting folks off for non-payment. We did not want to remove any discounts at the time. So we resurrected the conversation recently, and we've spoken to outside counsel. And even though the discount was adopted prior to Prop 26, there's an opinion that because we are using ratepayer dollars to fund that discount, that it still could be considered a subsidy under Prop 26. Next slide. So let's talk about what we can do. The program cannot be funded with ratepayer dollars, and we'll go through some options in a minute. Want to talk to you a little bit about public benefits funding. We've talked about this before when we brought forward the CARE benefit, which were those one-time bill assistance payments that were offered to customers. Public benefits, otherwise known as a public goods surcharge. So that requires us to collect and set aside a portion of retail energy sales. It's about 2.85%. We collect about $2 million a year in public benefits funding. That funding is legally restricted funding. It can only be used on 4 areas: energy efficiency, renewable energy, research and development, and low-income programs. So this funding is what is being used currently for our CARE program. It's also being used for the monthly share discount, which is the 30% discount for eligible customers. Next slide, Olivia. So a couple of options we need to talk about. The first one listed there, the status quo, is not really an option. We do need to change the funding source for this discount. So option 1, we could look at changing the funding source to public benefits funding. Again, we collect about $2 million a year. We have a fairly healthy fund balance in that fund. We could leave the eligibility criteria as is, possibly expand the CDBG recipient status from within the past 2 years to a longer period. I think the majority of folks that are not eligible for this discount are folks who have received CDBG funding but maybe don't fit within that 2-year time frame. We would look at possibly having applicants demonstrate self-certify that their nonprofit serves low-income disadvantaged communities. We don't want to overcomplicate this. The public benefits funding, again, as long as you're using it to benefit low-income disadvantaged communities, it meets the intended purpose of the funding. Option 2, change the funding source and the eligibility criteria. I would caution against opening this discount up to all nonprofits. I think that's why the original intent was adding the CDBG funding. You have probably hundreds of nonprofits. I think the list that we pulled from the IRS was in the range of 200. So those nonprofits could range from service type organizations to your local parent club supporting a school. So again, I would caution against opening it up to all nonprofits. Again, the CDBG recipient criteria ensures that the discount is being provided to community service type organizations, which was the intent. And then lastly, you could eliminate the discount. That's always an option as well. Next slide, Olivia. So next steps, part of this discussion, any option that the council provides direction on would require a change to 2 sections of the Lodi Municipal Code. Those 2 specific sections are what's called our G1 and G2 small commercial rate class. That's where those discount provisions are included. That's where, that's the rate class that nonprofits would fall under as a non-residential customer. The changes in implementation could be completed by the end of the calendar year. Based on the time needed to revise the ordinance, communicate with existing discount recipients, and conduct a public hearing. Next slide. So with that, I'm happy to open the discussion up. We could move back to the options slide, Olivia, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Again, realizing I'm not able to answer any specifics about customer names, account names who are receiving the discount and how much.
Do we have any questions from council or?
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for presenting this, because this is it's helpful when I'm talking to constituents who are asking these questions about why can't I apply to this program. So without saying, you know, a customer, I'll just state that this first came to my attention in the last few months from Grace and Mercy. So some of the organizations back to the CDBG may not have taken advantage of CDBG funds. However, they may be easily able to demonstrate that they are serving low-income disadvantaged communities. So back to your comment about self-certification, would it not be possible to give some criteria for those organizations to say, hey, just because we haven't funded you with CDBG funds, because there's even a limited pot of that, doesn't mean you can't take advantage of the program if you can demonstrate your low-income disadvantaged community service. So is there a way and criteria by which, instead of just relying on CDBG, we could allow for those criteria so they could self-certify?
And we could. So that's part of one of the options, is changing that eligibility criteria so that it's not strictly limited to CDBG recipients. So if that's something the council would like to do, in terms of, we would change the funding source and also change the criteria to essentially say, here are the basic guidelines, and we could work on that in any revisions to the ordinance that say this is how you would self-certify or demonstrate that you are serving a low-income disadvantaged community.
Yeah, I'd be comfortable with that. I think, to your point, we don't open it to all nonprofits, but those that certainly are demonstrating a public benefit opportunity to a community of residents that are in great need. So that seems an appropriate accommodation. So it's the only thing I have to add.
So question, I think this is for Katie. So they say that one of the criteria of what this money can be used is research and development, right? Can this money be used for economic development? Like, I'm thinking about different program of using it for businesses to attract them, for example, give them incentives like no electricity or have electricity if you move to Lodi.
So the R&D component of public benefits is really intended to address emerging technologies on the energy side. So what I can tell you that is happening that qualifies under that category is specific to electrification. So currently, utilities are using public benefits funding for electrification, which if you think about it, public benefits are for energy efficiency. Electrification is not saving energy, you're using more. However, the state allows us to essentially call that research and development as you look at emerging technologies associated with electrification. That's essentially a way that the state is looking at fuel switching and allowing us to expand the use of that funding. So it's really more about emerging technologies in the energy sector is what that's for.
Okay, so then if we, well, for example, we study option 3 and eliminate this program, where do the money, like in the past, has been used, or where, like just a hypothetical?
So this funding goes primarily to low income. It goes to administer the programs. The largest percentage of this money every year goes to rebates. So all of the rebates that we issue to residential, commercial, industrial customers, that is the largest chunk of this annual budget. The energy efficiency, the 0% financing that I know we've worked with Luis on advertising that program as well, that comes out of the same pot of money. We use a portion of this to pay down power supply costs, eligible power supply costs on the renewable energy side. So those are really the big buckets, but the largest of which is your rebates for residential, commercial, industrial.
Okay.
Any other questions? Councilmember Hensley?
No, I think I would just ask for staff's guidance, or based on what I had suggested, would it be option 1, bullet 2?
Correct. So if that is the will of the council to, again, continue with the program, continuing with the program requires us to change the funding source. So we would shift to using the public goods surcharge, public benefits funding for that. And it sounds like the council would be interested in expanding from that CDBG recipient only to including service organizations that have a direct benefit to low-income disadvantaged communities with clear criteria in the ordinance that we could specify that folks would apply for.
And for instance, Melissa, you know that I referred somebody to you, what was it, last week? Like, who did you give my phone number to? On any case, so I think this would be an excellent opportunity because, one thing that I don't want to see is, council or management saying, this person's good, this person's not good if it's not done by a criteria. The only other question I would have, so I'm supportive of, I believe it's option 2 that you just mentioned, or option 1.
Option 1.
Option 1, my apologies. All for option 1. Second question would be, how do people find out more information about this? What is the proper channel besides your phone number?
So we do have our program information advertised. We use Facebook. This program specifically, historically, we have not proactively advertised. The way that the ordinance was written, it actually says the customer is responsible for contacting the city if they think they're eligible. Right or wrong, if we expand this program, we will add it to our current marketing materials, social media. I think speaking with Jennifer Ryan, we can work with her to get information out to some of those service level community organizations that they have relationships with.
Do we have a few different levels or options of like the number of funds to allocate towards this? Do you think that'll be brought to us?
I think we would probably, we could see how much interest we have. That fund is doing well. We can allocate additional budget from that fund. We don't spend all of the rebate dollars every year, so even a change middle of the year doesn't concern me in terms of overexpending.
Last comment from my side. I understand that because how the law is written, we need to do this, right? Like kind of we need to say change the criteria because we cannot subsidize some people with the taxpayers with the money of the others. So that's kind of very straightforward. That's why we're here. But for me, for principle, it's like this doesn't bring any multiplier effect. Like we should be thinking about if we're investing $2 million of trying companies to Lodi, and maybe I have a different opinion of what nonprofits do. I just believe that entrepreneurship and economic development brings more benefit to the community than these nonprofits. I will support what my colleague suggested, but just put it on the record. If I were that circumstance, I would vote for number 3 to just eliminate this program.
Maybe I can just follow up on that. We do have a discount or an incentive for startup businesses, correct?
We do. So we do have the new jobs discount. We have the new business discount. And again, we are helping a lot of larger commercial industrial businesses. There's a couple that we're working with Luis on some very large accounts to rebate a significant amount of dollars to bring in tenants to some space. We can always look at other augmentations to the existing programs, the 0% interest loans for existing businesses. If council wants to revisit that and some of the maximums associated with that, we could do that as well.
I'd suggest that you work with Luis and incorporate that into the economic development plan, because that would be a financial incentive that could be part of that plan. So that would be the way to do it.
And we do, so Justine Delgado was our new key accounts manager. She took over for Estrita when Estrita retired. Justine communicates on a regular basis with Luis. So I know we've started meeting periodically to update each other on upcoming projects and how we can assist with our programs as well. So we'll continue to have those discussions.
And maybe we can meet on other times, because I would love to hear these programs, how they work, and so I would like the discussion.
Sure.
So thank you. Yeah, that's very good.
All right. I believe we are taking a motion on this item, if that's correct. Do we have any motions for any direction forward?
Direct staff to look at option 1, alternatives to be on the CDBG period and demonstration of nonprofits serving a local or a low-income disadvantaged community.
Second.
All in favor? And it passes. Moving to item G4.
G4 is to receive a presentation on sidewalk vendor regulations and city enforcement practices. And we have our Deputy City Attorney, William Baird, here to present on this item. Katie, did you want to have?
Yeah, I just want to do a quick introduction. I know when William started, we brought him around and did a quick introduction, but now is an opportunity for him to get some face time in front of you all. He'll be doing a quick presentation on what our sidewalk vending ordinances provide and work with other departments and everything. So great opportunity to hear from William. Thank you.
Thank you for that, and thank you, Madam Clerk, for pulling up the presentation. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is William Baird, Deputy City Attorney here with Lodi. Talking tonight about sidewalk vending. This high-level presentation is meant to discuss some of the relatively recent changes in state law and discuss about how their impact has been felt among cities, including ours, all across the state. Recently, or relatively recently, over the past 10 years, state law has essentially decriminalized sidewalk vending. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is not the point of this conversation. The point of this conversation is to discuss what impacts and challenges that decriminalization has had and presents to our community. As I talk tonight, I'm going to talk about what it is that we're seeing, what it is that sidewalk vending is, some of the pros and cons associated with sidewalk vending, what the state of the law is, some of the challenges that we face in enforcement, some of the on-the-ground observations, and then we'll talk about some possible next steps. Madam Clerk, if you can advance the slide, thank you. So what we're seeing and sort of what we're talking about here when I mentioned sidewalk vending, we're talking about late-night pop-up food vendors. We're talking about merchant vendors outside of permitted events. So in that first one, you can think of people selling hot dogs on the carts with the grilled vegetables. You can think about fruit stands where people are selling fruit. On the second bullet point, you might think T-shirts related to band apparel. You could think about jewelry, various costume jewelry that might be sold outside of various events. And then the third point that we're seeing is sort of a consequence of these things, and that is crowding at hotspots. Some of these, particularly the late night food vendor options, after bars have closed down, those food vendors are open. Sometimes crowds will gather there. Those large crowds present certain challenges as well. If we can advance the slide, please. Next slide. Some of the arguments in favor of these street vendors, this is a situation where, like a lot of issues that we see, there's two sides to everything. There's two sides to this as well. There are a lot of people, a lot of members of the community who favor street vending. It allows for entrepreneurship, it supports local communities, provides convenient food options at reasonable prices. It fills an unmet demand, particularly at events and after typical hours that your brick and mortar businesses might be closed. So if there was no demand, obviously they wouldn't be there. So there is a demand that's being filled, and all those things are the positives in favor of street vending. Next slide, please. Some of the problems that we see associated with street vending, some of the particular concerns are related to food safety, ADA access or blocking paths where we want to have accessible. There's fire hazards, particularly when the vendors are cooking or using some sort of heat to cook food. And then trash and sanitation. Sometimes trash can be left behind or grease can be left behind, creating issues with cleanup associated with that. If we could advance the slide, please. The relatively recent changes in state law, I say relatively recent because the oldest one went into effect in 2019, which is about 6 years ago now. That was Senate Bill 946, the Safe Sidewalk Vending Act. What that did was decriminalize sidewalk vending. It allowed for cities to regulate the time, place, and manner associated with vending, but it required that such regulations be tied to objective health, safety, and welfare concerns. Provided a tiered administrative fine structure that imposed fines for these violations that escalated over the number of occurrences. Those fines are on the slide. The important thing to note about this, as well as the next one, is that these fines are administrative in nature. They're not criminal. That'll present some challenges I'll talk about eventually. The next law that was passed, Senate Bill 972, passed in 2023 or went into effect in 2023, and that was the California Retail Food Code Act. That updated Senate Bill 946 and included revisions to the to the State Retail Food Code. So whereas the Senate Bill 946 just applied to sidewalk vending, it didn't address the health and safety code. Well, Senate Bill 972, the later one that came along, did, and it came along and it addressed the health and safety code and the California Retail Food Code. It did that by reducing some of the burdens on particularly food vendors. It set up a new subset of vendors that are called compact mobile food operations. Those vendors are defined to have limited food prep. There's requirements related to the display space that they have, less than 25 square feet. It removed out vendors that are selling prepackaged food, meaning an unopened bag of chips, for example, would be exempted out of that. Any sort of food prep, limited food prep that might still be occurring would go through some expedited permitting processes and procedures and wouldn't be subject to the full regulatory framework that had been in place before then. This law also provides for administrative-only fines for violations of it. And that goes from a notice to $100, $200 to about $500 or less. Next slide, please. As for municipal code regulations in Lodi, our municipal code chapter 9.18 discusses vending on streets, and 9.19 specifically applies to sidewalk vendors. And when I mention that, you can think the push cart type vendors. These ordinances were adopted following the first law change in 2019, that's SB 946, but has not been updated since SB 972 took effect. Requires sidewalk vendors to possess a sidewalk vendor permit, Lodi business license, environmental health permits, and certifications. 9.19.070 prohibits vending within 300 feet of any school grounds, within 100 feet of street intersections, on or from a street or private property. Prohibits interference with pedestrian travel, access, or causes a violation of Americans with Disabilities Act. And it prohibits vending that interferes with vehicle travel or parking. Stationary sidewalk vendors must obtain an encroachment permit to vend from a public right-of-way. Notable about this, and I'll come back to this again, as I've already mentioned another time, the consequence for failing to abide by these requirements the consequences are administrative only. Next slide, please. In looking at the total regulatory requirements that are in place as of now, there are Lodi Municipal Code requirements. As mentioned on the previous slide, that includes or could include a mobile food vendor permit, business license. It can include an encroachment permit. There's a state requirement to have a seller's permit, and there are requirements that could be in place from county environmental health depending on the activity and the item that's being sold. Next slide, please. In discussing enforcement, as I've mentioned a couple times already in this presentation, enforcement of these ordinances is done through administrative enforcement. That means fines only. There's not any criminal sanctions. This is not something that can be punished with a criminal infraction or a misdemeanor. They're administrative in nature only. It includes for a first violation, a notice; on a second violation, a fine not exceeding $100; a third violation, a fine not to exceed $200; and a fourth violation or more within 1 year, an administrative fine not exceeding $500 for each additional violation. There is a portion of the Health and Safety Code which provides that operating one of those mobile food operations without a permit may be punishable by a fine, but that fine is not to exceed 3 times the cost of a permit. And so that's a caveat to be aware of as well. Next slide, please. collective enforcement problems, and here's where I think this is where the real issues are, because this is where we run into problems with regards to trying to enforce these requirements, which are administrative in nature. Because while we may want to bring sidewalk vendors into the fold, into the regulatory framework, so we can have visibility on who's out there selling and have awareness of the conditions under which items are being sold, when the penalties are administrative in nature, there's consequences that follow from that. One of those consequences is we can be given a fake name without any real way of identifying or verifying that name. Of course, if we're given a fake name on an administrative citation, that becomes problematic if we ever want to enforce that citation should the person not pay. It's possible also that, well, there's from a problematic standpoint, we're limited to we can't ask for IDs from these individuals, which is typically something that's done by police when there's a crime that's suspected. But with this being decriminalized, we can't do that. Enforcement of administrative remedies is resource intensive. And so that's something to be aware of too. If code enforcement is out there trying to do this enforcement, we only have so many people that can do that. Additionally, some of these sidewalk vendors are present at times when code enforcement isn't active. In other words, 1, 2, 3 in the morning, perhaps. Additionally, there are more changes in state law which have been passed and have yet to go into effect. This Senate Bill 635, it just passed. Provisions in that new law relate to some of the background checking that we can do during the permitting process for vendors who want to be permitted. It also restricts our ability to be able to, it restricts our ability to inquire or ask about immigration status. There's a lot of immigration related restrictions in there as well. So those will be something that we continue to look at and gain more understanding about, but they do present additional challenges, and that's why I'm bringing them up now. Next slide, please. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to our police chief to talk about some of the things that he's seeing on the ground with regards to enforcement issues and sidewalk vending.
Thank you, William. Good evening, council. So this issue's been brought up a few times, and sorry, it sounds a little loud. It's been brought up a few times, and it usually comes back to us. What are we doing about it? So I'm glad we're talking about this to kind of just for more informational purposes on this is what we're doing about it. So calls for service. Because it's not a crime, it's not something we easily track. There's no category for it. So looking through our system, we were able to find at least 46 calls for service related to food vendors during the last 12 months. So that's from last October to this October. It's something we could start tracking, given it a code, but I'm sure there's more than that many calls, but we could at least track down to 46 at this time. Typically, the calls result in our officers advising whoever's selling the food that, what permits are needed, how to obtain them, and then most of the time, the vendors will pack up and leave. Not all the time, but most of the time they do. And the main thing is these calls divert our officers from handling other calls for service when there's, again, it's technically not a crime. The impact on public safety. So there are times when, vendors do cause other public safety concerns. So I know there was a big issue with the food vendor that was setting up a Harney and Cherokee by Reynolds Ranch. And essentially that was on the side of a dirt road in that area. So cars were pulling over, and it wasn't necessarily them that was causing the traffic concerns, but it was the customers. And they were just pulling off to the side and then come back into the roadway, and we were getting complaints about the traffic hazards that was happening there. Typically what happens is when a business comes in, we're invited to the table to talk about how it's going to impact traffic with our CDD department. So that's part of the permitting process, and that's again, it impacts public safety in that way. In that instance, we were able to Public Works was able to install no parking signs. So that was something we were able to address by issuing parking citations to people who were parking there. The other one that William brought up was the downtown late night food vendors. So our graveyard officers were actually excited that we were talking about this today. Because what happens is typically after 2 a.m. in the morning, we have 4 officers working and 1 sergeant. So at about 2 a.m., we have swing shift kind of hanging out a little bit, but they're ready to go home. That's when swing shift goes home. And at that time, we have anywhere from 6 to 8 officers. It drops down to 4. So you can see where we want people to have a good time downtown, be safe, but at that time, we want them to go home and clear downtown. Because what happens is when they hang out at one of these food vendors, you know, it attracts larger crowds. People have been drinking, and, you know, it could lead to disturbances, noise complaints, and there's also music involved. We get a lot of complaints about the noise downtown anyway at night because of the bars. However, this just adds another layer to it. And when you get large crowds of people who've been drinking, who are hungry, who maybe, you know, lower their ambitions and make bad decisions, it puts more stress on our officers, especially when you think about of those 4 officers, you can have maybe 2 on the street because one's at county jail and the other one's at the hospital getting someone medically cleared. So the impact there could be very, you know, for us, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So that's why, you know, it's important for us to start addressing or try to address some of these. And it's not, it doesn't just happen here. I mean, I remember leaving a Kings game last year, and as you're walking down to the parking garage, there are food vendors everywhere. Same at Levi Stadium. You walk across the street, there are a line of food vendors there as well. So it's not just us, it's happening everywhere. The enforcement complexity, as William talked about, it was decriminalized, so it almost took us out of the equation. However, as you can see, I mean, I know there was more than 46 calls, but we still get the calls, and there's an expectation from the public that we address these complaints. So again, we've been able to address parking violations, maybe some traffic enforcement, or trespassing when they're set up on private property and, you know, the owner doesn't want them there. So again, that's something we can address, but it's very rare because usually on some kind of public property. So crime opportunities, there's a potential for these food vendors to be victimized. You know, it could be robbery, a lot of them are cash vendors, fraud that they're not reported. And, you know, a lot of these go unreported, so we just never know. And a lot of it just due to that trust or that fear of reporting to the police. But we need to know these things so we can help them and then address any of those crimes that are happening. And then the impact on community relations. So as you can see, every time these laws are passed, it seems like the intent is to remove us, law enforcement, from addressing anything related to these, the vending of the food. So, you know, but there's still an expectation that we address those complaints. But on the flip side, there's also the expectation from others to leave it alone because it's not a criminal complaint. So, you know, like a lot of other things we deal with, we're usually in the middle of all this, and we're trying to find that balance because we want to, you know, again, be a representative of everyone in our community and continue to build that trust. So those are just some of the things that, you know, we're seeing and how it's affecting us. But also, you know, we are problem solvers, you know, and it's not a good thing for us to just say we can't do anything to solve this problem because we're obviously continuing to go to these calls. And, you know, it's just something that we want to figure out. How do we address it and how do we move forward? So thank you.
I believe we have somebody here from Community Development who can talk about this.
Go ahead, William, just go over the slide that was provided by our community improvement officer.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Community Development response has been to focus, as Chief Garcia said, on focusing on various aspects which we can control. One of those being when vending occurs on private property. That's obviously something we can deal with regards to trespass. Responding to complaints, issuing notices property and vehicle owners. Vehicles and vehicle owners are still responsible for where they park and how they park. And so if they're parking in a manner which is not in accordance with law, it doesn't matter that the vending might be decriminalized. That's obviously still an issue, something we can address. They've implemented a policy requesting a photo of the vendor, any associated vehicles, and that's part of documentation of the complaint process. It's that sort of documentation that can help with if we get an alias or an outright false name, having some of that documentation can help build the case later on if there are repeat violations. And then coordinating with police and fire departments to assist where necessary, and I'll talk about that on the next slide as well, if we can advance the next slide. Fire department, in talking with fire about some of their responses, fire has been able and does have a role to play in this as well, if specifically when we're seeing the vendors who are engaged in actual cooking, especially with an open flame. There's fire regulations regarding where that can happen and under what conditions. And if those are occurring in an area with, let's say, flammable materials nearby or too close to a building, that's an area where the fire department might be able to be called in and address that through a fire code issue. If the problem doesn't cease, then police can be called and helped with that as well. And that's not so much a response to the fact that somebody is vending, which again has been decriminalized, but it's a response into the manner in which they're doing so and the subsequent violations of the fire code or attendant violations of the fire code. They can inspect the vendors to ensure that they have the right fire suppression equipment, fire extinguishers in this example. And as mentioned, the fire marshal can enforce the state fire code and force shutdowns if there's a significant enough risk. So that is a way of still enforcing and addressing possible issues that are associated with sidewalk vending that is short of directly regulating or sort of outright prohibiting the conduct which this law has allowed. Next slide, please. Environmental health. Environmental health can inspect for food safety and permitting issues. This is particularly true or is particularly applicable when there's food preparation that's occurring. So that includes the stands where hot dogs are being cooked. That includes stands where there's cut up fruit that's being cut up and put into containers and then served. So county health can take a role as well and look for permitting issues and citing for that. Next slide, please. So some of the next steps, some of the things that we can do and be on the lookout for going forward, we can update Chapter 9.19 to match the SB 972 revisions. We can further update that to reflect the changes that are coming with SB 635. We can continue to coordinate with other departments and agency partners to address complaints, as you've kind of heard about already. The police department can criminally enforce violations other than vending. And the fire marshal can enforce fire code violations and order immediate shutdowns when there's safety risk. A note real quick about the criminally enforcing violations other than vending. There is an encroachment ordinance that we have that prohibits encroachment without a permit. That particular ordinance, which is so inherent in sidewalk vending that sidewalk vending is what it is and includes encroachment almost by its nature. Right? If you have a cart and you're set up in a right-of-way, you are almost always going to be encroaching, and that requires a permit. That is defined or prohibited, I guess, to use that word, in Title 9. I believe it's 040060, as part of our municipal ordinances. The penalty for that is administrative only, and that applies to sidewalk vending specifically. The more generalized encroachment prohibition is found in Title 12. I believe it's 12.04.060. That prohibits encroachment generally and provides that the penalty is a misdemeanor. To the extent there's any sort of conflict there, the provision related to sidewalk vending applies. It's administrative only. And so the police department can't enforce that more generalized Title 12 prohibition on encroachment without a permit on sidewalk vending because it's been preempted. There's a more specific regulatory structure in place. And so for those reasons, even though we still have that Title 12 prohibition on encroachment without a permit, police are going to be unable to enforce that. So I wanted to just make that caveat on that one point. But other than that, as I mentioned, there could be other violations that occur. And the fact that somebody might be sidewalk vending doesn't necessarily, give them a free pass on everything related to that. Next slide, please. Any questions?
Council, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I've got a couple. Just maybe our attorney can answer this. If we end up having somebody who's sidewalk vending, and we already know the traffic issues and congestion, that's enforceable by PD. We've gone through that, and I appreciated Public Works putting those signs up over there in Harney, as everyone that goes over there did, and it really has stopped that problem. They haven't been there, so that's a good thing. But because it is food prep, and because there could be harm, the fact is that somebody may get sick on the food, or, there's some other harm that's related to an open fire and the like. Does the city have any liability if we don't, for example, fully adopt SB 972? I mean, we always have liability, but if we're aware of it and we haven't been doing something about it, are we then liable if somebody's harmed?
I'll go ahead and provide a response. So environmental health did do a summary of what they do when they get a complaint. Now, I would say the city, we're not in the realm of regulating food anyway. So we just have, in our code, say you must comply with whatever environmental health requirements for food handler, prep certifications, and certification of your space. So put that on, but we aren't certifying that they are delivering a safe product for food. We just verify if they have a permit to show that's compliance. Our issue is we run into, okay, they don't have the permit.
Right.
All we can do now is issue that warning and that admin citation. So really our hands are tied. We can't say, some cities are taking the idea that they can confiscate the food at that point if it's a safety risk, but that's really up to county environmental health. And they provided a couple slides ago their summary of based on the type of complaint they get, their level of enforcement. So if it's a small vendor that they say we're not within a realm there, they would be required to permit, it's going to be just city enforcement. Versus if it's a pop-up vendor, larger with potential food prep, they will get one of their inspectors to go out and would collaborate with the city. And we could go in and enforce from our code sides, but they would enforce on the food portion. Now, if there are other issues of somebody is going and they do have an open flame or there's a clear fire risk, we do have some ability working with our fire marshal to come in and shut that down. So that's the way we've been tackling it, but we don't have authority to declare safe food or not.
Right.
So
we wouldn't be held liable if something happened. Okay. So Chief, is this something that when it's not a potential crime issue, let's say you do have, downtown is almost its own zone for this, it's almost its own enforcement zone because we know what the issues are after the bars close and, it's problematic. But when there's, basically during the middle of the day, I drive down Central, I can easily see food vendors who are right there at the intersection. They're completely blocking the parking or the sidewalk. Can partners issue a notice? Does it have to be a, PD officer, or can the partners take on that responsibility?
So since it's an admin citation, we don't issue those.
At all, even
No,
if it's?
no, and partners can't issue a citation to a person.
Okay,
They can issue a parking citation.
yeah, I know,
but yeah,
to a car,
yeah,
okay.
but not to a person.
All right, so it is coming down to basically code enforcement. I mean, that's.
Correct. That was the point I was going to add. By default, it defaults to our community improvement to issue those administrative citations. That's something that we could expand to allow them some administrative authority to issue those citations, or even expanding to fire marshal or kind of a deputized fire captain that could stand in those instances if there is a fire risk. But right now, it is community improvement officers, and we run into the hours and when they're working, and these vendors being out when we don't have community improvement staff on site.
Okay, and then the last one is, what does it cost for an encroachment permit, a vendor permit? I mean, when it comes down to the fact that if you're paying hundreds of dollars, you're going to take this seriously, you're going to get your permits, or you're just opening up a stand and you don't care about the permits and, I mean, do we have any idea of what the cost is?
So the original legislation, when it came about, it required us to do very limited fees. So I think it's $100 maximum for this, and I think maybe $20 for that. I'll have to double check the numbers, but it is a pretty minimal fee for them to kind of package it up, streamline the process. We want people to be compliant. If they are operating in accordance with this and have their certifications, that's great. We want that to happen. The problem is they most often don't, and that we don't have anything to enforce those requirements.
So for these admin citations, you mentioned we're limited by like the hours of folks to administer these citations. What are those hours?
Currently, our community improvement officers are the regular city 980 schedule, so it's just regular business hours. We have done a couple opportunities where there's like a weekend sting sort of operation where they stayed over, but that requires planning with schedules and overtime and things like that. So that is a potential in the future if we plan more options or looked at rotating staffing schedules and stuff. That's something community improvement would have to work with, but right now it's just the regular 980 business schedule.
Yeah, that's the challenge is that Saturdays and Sundays are probably the worst days for Harney Lane, and it's evenings, and it's expanded beyond just the right of way by Reynolds Ranch. You have it on both sides of the street now. People are getting pretty bold about it, where you have like barbecue pits on like the street right away where the bicycle path is supposed to be. And so, however we can encourage more sting operations, and I'd love to receive some data on the number of like these sorts of citations that we have already administered there, because it's not, despite mentioning it and talking about it here over and over again, and despite PD trying to, be proactive and cite in ways that they can, it's just not being addressed.
I would just chime into that, in other cities I've worked in, they do have a weekend and evening code enforcement because there's so much illegal activity and work that goes on the weekends, and people are like, well, I'll do it, it's on the weekend because nobody's going to be working. So it might be worth considering a position for code enforcement on the weekends, because I think the council member is exactly right. That's when you see it.
Any other council comments?
So very quick, I support what you guys are talking about, like having the hours. So we should explore that. So because it happens after hours, not during 9 to 5. And that business that you were talking about on Centro, sometimes they even in the yard actually of the business of the homeowner actually. And I'm like, how do they even let them kind of be in their in their like actual yard? Just crazy how it's
Well, no vote is required.
Well, no, I think there is some direction they want, correct? I mean, back to that slide that said this is some of our options. Next steps. So on the next steps, at a minimum, we should be matching the current requirements. So for our Chapter 919 match SB 972. And then I think police is already enforcing violations that are other than vending, right? I mean, if they're making noise downtown after 2 o'clock, disturbing people, you know, there's fights going on, you're already enforcing that stuff. And I would assume fire is, unless fire needs specific direction to do this, if you got an open flame burning and potentially there's something going on that you have the authority right now to enforce it. Is that correct, or am I wrong? Okay, so they're already doing the last 2 bullets, and I would just support that. So really, it sounds like SB 972 revisions, and then take a look at a minimum, start doing more stings, and maybe in the future, as we bring on more code enforcement, or take existing code enforcement and do some weekend hours and have an assigned person to that. So those are the suggestions I would make.
I concur with all the above, whatever we can do to mitigate this issue in general. A lot of what I see downtown, probably the worst section would be, what is the store off of Vine Street here and School Street? It's actually, the picture of it was shown. Thank you, Sherry's Sunshine.
Yeah, that's true.
And that section where the vendor is just completely obliterated with grease stains everywhere. So again, I think that the people are fed up. So again, whatever we can do, even on that specific corner, and if we have to handle these individuals one at a time, then that's what you have to do, because they're not taking care of public property, and they're not going to unless we force them to. So any other items to add before I move on?
Mayor, if we can take public comment as well.
Thank you. I will now open public comment. Do we have any individuals from the public that would like to speak on this item? Please come to the podium now. Seeing none, we will move on. So it is late, so I put on myself the items G4 and G5 for tonight. I'm sorry, G5 and G6. Do we have any members of the public that are here for those 2 items, G5 or G6? If you are, please raise your hand. No? Okay, so I assume most individuals are going to be here for G7, if anything. Lisa, do we want to finish G7 tonight? Because I'm going to make the suggestion we at least postpone item G5 and G6 for our next agenda, because they're items that we can look to later.
I would move we postpone those 2 items, and it seems to me G7 would be a quick
Okay,
vote
yeah,
of
that's fine.
council. You guys are okay with that?
Yeah, that's
Well, I think both, because I think initially I put that and wonder a G7, and I would rather hear another day.
You want to hear it?
Yeah, because I think I don't concur with another discussion, because I was not there, because I suggested and I went on trouble, I was not there for the discussion.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's why, but it's too late, so can we move it to,
Are you guys okay with that?
Yeah. No, that's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
All 3?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
that's fine, to the next agenda, so no
So
correct.
meeting.
am I hearing a motion to move G5,
6, and
6,
7.
and 7 to the November 5th, to continue them to the November 5th meeting?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. And do I have?
My
a-
gift to Charlie Swimley.
You need a formal motion and a
Yes.
second. Okay, I move what she said, so,
second?
thank you.
All in favor? Aye. Yeah, I was getting the glare from Mikey over there. I'm like, oh, I better get this done quick. All right, and the meeting is adjourned at 10:25 PM. Thank you to staff, and we end the meeting